Good afternoon, Amy with Grassroots. Thank you so much. It is 1:02 p.m., Tuesday, February 17th. This is the work session of the Board of County Commissioners. We have 9 interviews on our plate. We just wrapped up a couple hours of exec, so thank you for joining us this afternoon. In the room, we have Francie Jacober, Patty Clapper, and myself, Jeffrey Woodruff. We may have from some South American country, potentially, our 4th board member dialing in remotely, or he may listen to this at a later date and time. First up, we're going straight into commissioner interviews.
We're going straight in.
Excellent. If anyone needs a quick refresh, because I know all the candidates read the Home Rule Charter as part of their due diligence. 2.6 of the Home Rule Charter states that vacancies shall be filled by the remaining commissioners by majority vote. Any commissioner so appointed shall stand for election at the next regular primary and general election to serve the remainder of the term of the commissioner he or she has succeeded. So,
can I make a clarification just for the public on this one? So that is what the Home Rule Charter states, because District 2 is up for the term ends at the end of 2026 and is up for election in 2027. Any candidate, it says shall in the Home Rule Charter, candidates do not have to commit for running for the full term in 2027.
But they can. If
They can, but they are not required to.
And the actual date, if I may, Mr. Chairman, for the term that we're filling here today is January 12th at noon. I just happen to know that date and time.
11:59 a.m.
So we're going to call up candidates in order. We're going to try to stick to about 15 minutes, plus or minus. And first up, we have Megan Ruby.
And then when are we doing public comment?
26.
No, I thought public comment was being taken at both hearings.
They are. This is not a hearing. This is the interview. Oh, public comment will be taken at both hearings on
Both hearings,
February
the 26th
26th
and the
March 3rd.
3rd. Thank you.
Do you want me to sit here or here?
That's perfect. I think both mics are on, so you're good.
Okay. Here, I'll sit in the middle.
Or you can change seats midway if you want.
And if you want to start with a brief introduction, that would be wonderful. And I think you're about to get 3 commissioners firing questions at you following a brief introduction.
Absolutely. I'm Megan Ruby, and I'm interviewing for District 2 County Commissioner.
Excellent. You want to do first up?
No, you can go ahead. You've got that list of
I'll go.
questions.
Francie.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Francie. We've never met, so welcome to the table.
Thank you.
And thank you for applying.
for having me.
I have a question, which is not an easy one. So just warning you, how do you think we can balance the negative aspects of growth with the need for affordable housing?
By doing full mitigation on new development. I think we're having a real issue with managing growth in a growing community. We're trying to balance the resort aspect with a working, living community. And I think that's really hard. We need to make it possible for locals to live here. And I think growth and development are making it unaffordable. I think there's such a high demand for construction, for labor, for services, and that's driving pricing up. We need to fully mitigate development and take into action the complete demand of our resources. If we spend more time understanding what complete mitigation is, I think we have a shot of making zero impact with respect to, or net zero in terms of its impact.
What is the mitigation that you're talking about? Complete mitigation. What is that?
Mitigating the complete mitigation of the demand of our resources. So let's take Harvest Roaring Fork development. I know that's out of our jurisdiction, but they're building 1,500 units with very little employee housing. They're overburdening our infrastructure, and our environment, our water, our resources. And who's stopping that? That is something that should be looked at very, very carefully before it is even brought to the table.
Okay, thank you, Megan.
Welcome, thank you.
Patty.
So my question is a lot more fun. Than Nancy.
That was a great question.
So out of all the priorities, you've seen the county's priorities. You have listed your own priorities. I'd like to know if you have one or two of the priorities that we should really focus on for the next 10 months or beyond.
Yeah. I mean, you all have done an amazing job with pushing forward voter-approved generational major projects that are going to support and preserve what makes this valley special. And that's the environment and our local community. I think everything is based on that. And I think we need to understand that we're getting cut. The federal, our federal budget is getting cut, and that we need to, you did a great job with finding more water rights, which I know that was a decade in the making. And when our federal funds were cut, employing Forest Service workers that we needed to stay on board. And everything comes down to, why are we here? We're here because this valley is extremely special. And what makes this valley special? The environment and the local community. And if we just concentrate on all of our goals on that, I think we'll be successful. But we do have to really hone in on managing our growth. I'm not anti-growth. I'm anti-growth without full mitigation.
Thank you. And thanks for applying. Appreciate it.
Thank
nice
you.
to see you.
So another softball.
Okay, where's the Spinal Tap
So,
joke?
I divided my questions into substance, project, and then culture and leadership. So you're going to get a substance project question. So the Department of the Interior sends you a letter. It's Dear Commissioner Ruby, letting you know that SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and TANF, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, are suspended next month. I'd like to know what steps you would take next following receipt of that letter from the DOI.
I would speak with my commissioners and see if we could get together and agree on sending a letter back. I would be very willing to go to the state capitol and speak on our behalf, go to regional state meetings, and make a ploy for why we need those essential resources. And in the meantime, obviously I'm learning, but I know we have an emergency fund that we could pull from to get us by. But I would be extremely active and proactive and motivated to go and support our community at the state capitol.
Okay. So I serve on 12 other things as well as sitting at this table. And so balancing your time can be really tricky. So we have quite a few other organizations that we represent Pitkin County at, including RAFTA, the River District, APCHA, Northwest COGS, CC4CA. I mean, there are CCI. There are a lot. And so we contribute our input, and usually we've been able to confer with the other commissioners to make sure we're representing the whole board. Sometimes things come up really fast. But so it's pretty time consuming outside of your time here at the table. And I'm wondering how you see that working in your life, having to go to Denver or sometimes to Washington and go to meetings and be on Zoom.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Okay, absolutely. Well, I'm extremely proactive and project-oriented. I have 2 grown children, so I don't have them at home. They're in college, and I'm very proud of them. They're both Eagle Scouts. My daughter is the 3rd Eagle Scout in all of Colorado for girls and won a national award for her project, which is amazing. I've taken on a lot in my life. I've always worked. I started a business, which I sold 5 years later. I created the Ruby Rescue Run, which is a nonprofit organization, to 100% of the funds benefit the Aspen Animal Shelter, more specifically the Friends of the Aspen Animal Shelter, for their spay and neuter program, along with scholarship funds for veterinarians and vet techs to have them practice and study in the Roaring Fork Valley. I also was the girls' committee chair and founder of that unit for Troop 199 and Scouts BSA, which is Boy Scouts of America, and helped with the integration of girls in an historically all boys group to give them the same opportunities as the boys had. And I was in that program for about 7 years, committed over 1,000 community hours. Everything I've done, I feel like I do it at 100%. And sometimes I set the bar so high for myself, it gets exhausting. But
I can relate to that.
I love being a part of the community, and I love taking on challenges. And you all work so hard, and I know I've researched how many committees, and talked to John Doyle a lot about this. He's on 1 million committees, and I love that because you're learning every day. You're meeting other people, you're collaborating, and that's what I want to do.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to let you go, Jeffrey. You've got that long list of categorized questions.
I'm going to give you a practical one.
Okay.
So parking at the Bear and the Elk Lot are about $6 and $13 each. We're about to go bond a couple $100 million. So fees may have to reflect future revenues at the airport. What are your next steps again? What do you do in terms of understanding where we are relative to either Eagle or Grand Junction, but understanding that passenger fees may have to be adjusted given both the future revenue stream at the airport, but also future bonding capabilities?
Jeffrey, I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the beginning of that question?
So our 2 parking lots names are Bear and Elk.
Yep.
One is $6, one is $13. If you go park at Snowmass Village today, you're going to pay $63. So it was really about fees and what you expect the community to bear relative to our ability to repay a bond.
I'm confused about why we're even parking. I don't understand why we cannot figure out a way to. I take the bus to the airport. I live in the West End. I take the bus into town. I walk. There's no need for people in Basalt even or Carbondale. This is why, my namesake, it was one of the first private-public partnerships to create the transportation center for a reason, so that we could get off the road. There has been talk, and I don't know where it's gone, about creating a bus that is specific for the airport. So it goes back and forth, and it's just for the airport. So those that don't feel that the bus is good enough for them can get on it knowing that there's room for luggage and it's a transport. And I think we really need to concentrate on getting away from parking. And I would love to get rid of all of parking, but we can't do that. But I wish people took the bus more. And I think going to the airport is so easy to take the bus. And people see me with my suitcase and ask, where are you coming from? That's such a great idea. I didn't think about that. It's super easy. So I hope that answered your question.
I'm good.
Probably not.
It really helps when there's no parking at the airport, too, to take the...
Right?
Yeah.
And people think outside the
When the
box.
parking lot's full.
The current plan for the airport has doubled the amount of parking spaces, so you can chew on that for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Megan, much like you saw in the 10-pager that came from Kara, there's right versus right questions in this as well, and we're just trying to get at your thinking and how you approach things. So you don't have to come back and say double fees. That'll make Aspen Times tomorrow, of course. So.
I wanted to ask you, so if you get this job and then you run for election, and so you serve almost 5 years, and something else comes up in your life, how would you like to be known for your service over those years?
I'd like to be known for giving back, for listening and respecting the community, to hold open discussions and dialogues, to have healthy discussions and respect others' opinions. When emotions get into play, it makes me sad. I think it's so important to disagree, but respect others and have integrity and hard work and compassion. And those are characteristics I live by. I'd like to be remembered as continuing the Ruby legacy of giving back. We were one of the first pioneers to give land for Williams Woods, which is one of the first employee housing, and giving an easement to connect on the Ruby subdivision to connect the Rio Grande to the Hunter Creek Connect, and funding that connection, creating and co-founding and funding the Christ Episcopal Church in the West End, supporting what's important to make this environment so healthy and to make, to help with the local community. I think everything stems back to that. Everything, when we're thinking about policies and procedures, land use, I think is that going to help our environment? Is that going to help our local community thrive here?
Thank you.
Anything you want to leave us with?
You think if I can remember anything that I forgot?
If you're walking home tonight or on the bus and you said, "Oh, I forgot to tell the board this."
No. I don't know. I mean, Truman, I admire Harry Truman so much, and he said, "I sleep well every night because I know I put my all in every day." And I love that motto, and that's kind of how I live my life. And I really am honored that you decided to interview me. I'm honored for your time, and I'm looking forward to some good news. Thank you. And you have exceptional candidates as well. I'm proud of this county for stepping up, and it shows a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan.
Max Ben-Hamu.
Hi, Max.
Similar format to Megan. You're welcome to introduce yourself, provide some opening words, and then we're going to hammer you with some in-depth questions.
Fine. My name is Max Ben-Hamu. I was born and raised in this valley. I love it dearly. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to ask.
Patty, you want to open it up?
I'll start with my question. Knowing the board's 5 priorities and knowing the priorities you've listed in your application, and thank you, Max, for applying. It's great because I growed these 2 young men up. They were part of the boys. So it's kind of fun to have you back around here. But if you had to pick out of the priorities that are listed or your priorities, what 1 or 2 do you think we should really focus on? Because it's hard to accomplish everything all the time. So what 2 priorities would you bring to the top?
I think for me, being embedded in the local economy and working in this valley for a long time, one thing that resonates as really important is housing affordability and workforce retention. I think those 2 pillars very much go hand in hand. And being able to live and thrive in this community is very much contingent on being able to actually live here. And in this valley, we know it's very difficult, but people love it. People fight for it. People will do all sorts of creative measures to make it happen. And I think something that's very important for this board is to help decide how we can make that easier for people long term.
Thanks.
Hi, welcome. Well, when I was reading through your application, I saw that you're very interested in maintaining fiscal responsibility for the county. And that is definitely one of the areas where we have to make decisions pretty often about how we spend taxpayers' money. And so I'm wondering if you have any ideas about balancing housing, open space and trails. I know education is also of interest to you, but where would you, Health and Human Services, where would you feel strongest about maintaining funding here, even if the rest of the budget is going to be hit a little bit? Was that clear enough? I kind of rambled a little.
Yeah. Can you kind of?
Yeah. So if we're in a budget shortage, as we are this year, thanks to the feds and the state, and so we have to cut budgets in some area, where would you feel the strongest about not cutting the budget?
That's a tough question. Ideally, we're not cutting the budget, but naturally, fiscal responsibility is an important piece of maintaining the ability to keep progressing for the county. So in that, I think looking at long-term projects and trying to balance how they can kind of play off of one another, moving into the future and seeing what things can we kind of focus on in the immediate term to balance the budget and make sure that we're remaining fiscally responsible while still giving credit and attention to things that we know we can kind of move further away from right now that will build on each other. So in this instance, I think, looking at exactly what I said is one of the most important things, housing affordability and workforce retention, is kind of an ongoing forever issue that we're going to have in this county. And being able to kind of balance that with what are the immediate needs of Pitkin County and seeing where we can kind of manipulate different choices on expenditures that might not yield immediate results, but can further the results down the road. I think it's very much a balancing act, and it's hard to say which one you need to cut out and replace with something. I think it's very much an analytical process. We have to listen to all of the factors at play and decide very carefully.
Thank you.
Yeah.
More of a social services question for you. So the way of working is changing. We're seeing that post-COVID, work from home, remote work. What changes could you given your priorities around housing and affordability, what could we do as a county to better serve our 400 plus employees, given the changing nature of work?
I think something that is really encouraging about the changing nature of work is that people don't have to move around quite as much. I think that helps with congestion and traffic and mobility. That gets hard in a lot of the hands-on economy that we have, especially around the built environment that we have in Aspen. But I think a lot of the work that can be managed remotely when people don't have to drive up valley and from different counties and people coming in from far and wide, we don't have to have as much of congestion and issues relating to that and moving. So I think that's one benefit that comes out of it. I think something that's delicately balanced with that is that we still want to maintain a good community, and we still want to we don't want everyone to be working from home and not interacting with each other. So I think balancing that has a very unique opportunity. We can kind of manage when people are working from home, working from different places, working from out of state, people that work when they travel, and then people working here in the community and being very hands-on and kind of managing how we see that kind of balancing out and, use data to see what gains we can get.
So follow-up question would be,
Really?
How would you describe your personal leadership style?
Collaborative. I'd like to lead by listening a lot and hearing what people have to say, what people have as facts, what other people can bring to the table. I also very much like to lead by example. In my work as a hospitality leader, I won't ask anyone to do anything that I'm not willing to do. And I very much live and work by that.
Have you ever done the disc game?
Have I done a what?
It's
Don't even bring that up.
there's a
One of the
disc.
things they make you do at board retreats, they make you do it.
I'm
So
open to it.
I'll answer the question.
Frisbee?
So that's a good answer. That's definitely a roaring fork answer. Dominance, influence, steadiness, or conscientiousness. And I was trying to put you in one of the four when you described yourself.
Okay.
So we've each been placed in a quadrant. And so you'd be working with 4 other board members was really the nature of the question as well.
Naturally.
So both individual leadership, but also working within a group is where I was going.
Okay.
We were placed in
sense.
those quadrants against our will. Right, Kara?
But it's to get clarity on how we all work together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciated your good writing in your application.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering how this is going to affect the rest of your life if you have this big a commitment. It sounds like you're pretty busy. And so do you see being able to carry this and some of the other things that you might want to continue doing?
Most definitely. I love working hard and I like to keep myself busy and engaged. And this is really motivating to be engaged with the community, engaged with the policy and the future decisions of this county is really exciting. And anytime I get really excited about anything, I put a whole lot of effort into it. And I do manage a very busy entity in town, and that mostly takes place at night, honestly. So I have a lot of my daytime free. So being engaged in this process and with this board and with all of the decisions that you all make and work on a regular basis is honestly thrilling to me. And I think I could come at it with a lot of energy and make the time that is needed in order to be really engaged in this process.
Great, thank you.
So I wasn't going to ask the question, but Francie, you asked it about where you want to be at the end of the day. How did you word that? Because
How do you want to be remembered
Yeah.
as a commissioner?
Personally, I am not looking at doing this to be remembered. I see this as a way to really serve my community and give back to what this community has given me for so long in my life. And it's given me so much growth and education and potential that I see this as an opportunity to really give back and to really be there in the room, hearing about how decisions are made, being active in the decision-making process, helping to guide policy that ultimately that is what people remember. That the time that I spent on the board, the whole board was collaborative and effective in navigating the difficult challenges that we have in this valley and ultimately making sound decisions that people really feel that the community did.
Okay.
thank you, Francie, for helping me out with that, because I think it's a good question.
So similar to Megan, we'll offer you final, what you want to leave us with.
I just want to leave with the sentiment that I, grew up here. I've seen a lot of changes, and I think that this valley and this county is really worth protecting. And I think in order to do that, there's a lot of inputs and a lot of information and a lot of data that goes into it. And being there to help analyze the data and help make decisions to kind of guide that future into the long term is really exciting to me. And being able to give back to this community that's given me so much is really a driving motivator. So thank you so much for the time and for all the information. Really appreciate it.
When I saw him right before the weekend, I said, what are you doing this weekend? And he showed me, he goes, I'm doing my homework. Thanks, Mac.
Very willing to study. So
Thanks for your time.
Thank you,
Thank
Max.
you.
Thank you. Ted. it's nice to see a supportive, collaborative, engaged boardroom as well. So thank you guys all for being here.
Very attentive.
Yeah.
Hi, Ted.
Hi.
So similar format. You're welcome to start us off and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I guess for the public too who are viewing, my name is Ted Mann. And really basically I love where I live. I love the conversations around it. I find I'm aligned with the way the community direction always seems to go as I've watched the BoCC and decisions through the years. So when this opportunity came up, it seemed like a natural draw to want to pursue. So I appreciate being able to be here right now. I think it's pretty unique, and it's been a fun process thus far. Yeah.
Who wants to kick off?
Okay, I have an out there question for you, since, because of your skiing history. So it's looking pretty bad for skiing right now, weather-wise, and I'm wondering whether you see a path for resiliency in Pitkin County and Aspen if we have more winters like this.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it still remains to be seen if this is a new normal or this is a one-off. There's a lot of conversations thus far that have been doomsday scenarios. I think that this is what we're looking at from here on out. I'd like to not go down that rabbit hole right away, but I think it is important to plan for these years to be this type of winter to be more common. And I think you see that in other parts of the world, and you might be, informative to see what happens in those locations. And sometimes there's a lot of skiing that takes place on the top of the mountain, but not the bottom of the mountain. And sometimes there's a need to, and tell me if I need to get back on direction with this line of questioning, but
No, it's
sometimes,
fine.
it might be worth assessing as we look around. Even the past few years, the town is often dry, but the snow falls on the top. And so I think you kind of have to realize over the next, 10, 20, 50 years, what is skiing going to look like then? And what kind of planning do you have to be more willing to accommodate? And I think by that, it might be at higher elevations. The Nordic skiing is struggling in particular, just to stay open at the golf course. And I don't think it's the wrong conversation to have because we're staring at it right now. We don't know if it's next year and the year after or further out, but it's a conversation we're going to have to confront.
Okay, thanks.
I'm kind of hoping it ends tonight with that snow coming from Mammoth. So I'm going to ask, if you don't mind,
Please.
the question. 5 priorities the board has, your priorities.
Yeah.
What 1 or 2 priorities do you think we should really focus on the next 10 months and or beyond?
Yeah. As far as the priorities that I see, we were asked to list 5. I think we all probably picked 5 that were pretty closely aligned with the BoCC. Some are ongoing and never end, and some are more time sensitive. So if I had to pick from the 5 that I had listed, I would have to think immediately we're confronting funding issues on a federal level, shortfalls that'll have to be made up somewhere. And that could be something that is particularly acute in the next 10 months. And maybe that will resolve itself or those conditions will improve, in years ahead if things change on a federal level. So I think that's number 1. You could say, following up on the prior question, if we have a really poor spring and it continues to be dry, well, then maybe we need to prioritize how we're going to manage water and wildfire. We don't know what March looks like or April. 6-7 years ago, we had a monster, snow spring, and things could kind of get back to average. We don't know that yet, so I wouldn't put that one at the top. But I guess my point is, there's a little bit of wait and see. The other stuff that has a deadline on it, Vision 2050, P&Z, and then ultimate approval, that's coming pretty quickly. So that's going to be ongoing work, regardless of anything else. And there are pressing airport issues. So I guess just in sum, I would say funding cuts first, trying to kind of stabilize where needed there. And then it might be related to drought, and it might not. It could probably then be, I would say, airport planning.
Thank you.
Sure.
You're up.
All right, softball. One of the design questions in front of the team for the airport is whether we keep offloading onto the tarmac or we put in jet bridges. The board's just back from trips to Bozeman and Jackson Hole. We've seen solutions on both ends. So there's a question for you, which is really about how accessible are we as a community, right? Versus sort of that breath of fresh air and really just ingesting those jet fumes as you get off the plane. So it's a softball. It's
Yeah.
On the one side, we could say, hey, we side with the Department of Justice and we need to be the most accessible community. On the other, we want to get you down to the tarmac and make it as difficult as possible to get into the airport. So without answering my own question,
Actually,
What's your
you kind of
opinion on
just
this?
tainted the whole question in my mind.
it's really how do you balance sort of the natural beauty with accessibility and again you can it's a design question,
Sure.
right? We just finished conceptual. We're going through a pretty well-defined process, but we've got an amazing design team, and it's really just looking for your input.
Well, a lot of things to consider there. I do know guests who come visit who love the fact you can walk off into the air regardless of the jet exhaust. On a nice night, it's lovely. On a morning like today, when you have President's Week guests trying to get out of here, no doubt lots of delays. It's a mess and maybe not the most ideal. And then that's not even considering kind of how practical it is from an ADA standpoint. It's a tough question because, again, when things are ideal, it's pretty cool to just walk off and get there. There's a cost component to it as well, I imagine, that's considerable. That would be something you have to think about long and hard because I think the walk-off model just kind of harkens back to the old small airport days, and that's a question that the community can debate whether they think that's where we are or the jetway is where we're headed. I don't know that I have my answer here today.
No, again, I mean, you can hear my questions. It's
Probably
really
a
just,
good thing.
it's really just to have a conversation
Yeah.
with you.
He won't ask me that question, trust me.
He knows the answer.
I have a question for you, Ted.
Sure.
So we have open space and trails, which is one of our most heavily funded departments, and then we also have housing, which now has its own tax, as does open space and trails. But sometimes they conflict, and I'm wondering if you think we can successfully balance additional housing with your desire for open space.
Yeah, that is sort of falls in that right kind of decision making. So
Definitely.
I do think that they are slightly separated if you want to consider planning housing just within the urban growth boundary. The county may be 4/5 open space, but we're certainly not entertaining building in that 80% of the county. So I think
There is Phillips.
there is Phillips, but I consider Phillips to be an existing one that was right to take on
Yeah, okay.
as a county, but for the reasons that was discussed in Phillips, meaning it's not near transit and it's not within the urban growth. I think if Phillips didn't already exist, I wonder if there would be a Phillips. I do think it's possible, but it is a tough thing to navigate. I can't think of an example of where we would be giving up critical open space for housing right now, and I may be wrong. I think they can both be done. I also think that the goal shouldn't be endless build out of housing. We have a lot of housing. We're not looking to put thousands of cars on the road in addition to what is already there. So, I mean, I think when you listen to housing staff talk about the 3 C's, like construction, conversion, conservation, I think, the construction one doesn't always have to, that can be the third in line. I think we can conserve and convert as we have been and continue to grow the program without needing to go into open space.
Can I follow up with one?
Please.
So you sort of equated new housing with new traffic. You're talking about construction traffic, I assume, because one of the justifications for housing is to have people not be commuters. And so I mean, I'm just pointing it out. I wonder when that balances out, because certainly the construction traffic is massive right now.
But I'm also thinking about just the traffic from the units at Phillips, for example. If we had Phillips,
Oh, I see.
if we had other developments that were like Phillips, who were, not on transit raft accessible areas, then we're just kind of adding more
I got it.
commuting, local work traffic.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, the question. How would you like to be remembered after serving for this term appointment? Or, because I know that you are contemplating running?
Yes, I have filed. It's interesting to write your own. It's not really writing your own eulogy, but I feel like Pickens County's been really good to me. I showed up here without a plan, or certainly didn't think I'd be here this long, and my wife as well. And so we look back on it and think that we've had a really good life afforded to us by the county. And sometimes I wonder if that opportunity still exists. It probably doesn't exist exactly as it was for me when I pulled into town with the job opportunities in housing. But I do think it can still be done for people who want to call this place home. And I would like to be known as someone who kind of fought for the ability to maintain the option to come here to Pickens County on your own and make a life. And I think that kind of encompasses a lot of what BoCC does in terms of managing affordability, housing topics that we're always talking about. So I feel like that would be who I would be looking to be appointed to represent. Yeah, and that would be an honor to be remembered that way.
Thanks.
So closing remarks.
I don't really have any closing prepared remarks. I just, actually in reading the County 101 manual, one thing I didn't realize before going through this process is the idea that the BoCC kind of operates as one voice, even though you may have differing opinions, and I've witnessed some of those in meetings. I think you do a really good job at the end of the day, being one organization and standing with the direction you guys decide. That makes a really appealing group to work with. That's kind of my style, more team, less showman, more work together, and less, friction. So it'd be an honor to serve. And if, however it works out, it's been a real learning experience. And I'd almost recommend everyone kind of go through the process and read that big binder.
It's interesting. One of my questions for you was, most of us had a year to prepare, right? We either went through a primary or an election, and we sat with the county manager for the most part, if we were unopposed, for the better part of a year. Mm-hmm. And so we're asking candidates, this is for everyone in the room, to get up to speed in a couple of weeks. Again, we all had the benefit of going down to the Front Range and spending 3 days with CCI and CCAT and doing 1041 and new commissioner training and location and extent. And so we're asking you in a couple of meetings to be up to speed. So I appreciate everyone's reading in terms of county policy and the politics and state land use and local control. So I appreciate the effort everyone's made.
Yeah, no, thank you. Drinking from the fire hose, I think, is what they say.
I ran during COVID. I didn't get any of that.
Nancy, I ran 6 times and never got any myself. Only the county attorney would talk to me. Thanks, Ted.
So are we doing 5 in the first group, or are we doing 4?
5.
Okay.
5's on the backside.
Scott Woolley.
So I wanted to start by just briefly apologizing for not making the County 101 session. I got hit by the bug that's going around our community and certainly didn't want to spread that around. So I was actually just handed the county packet with all of these documents, and I also have my own. So if you have any specific questions, I'm well prepared.
He's a quick, speedy learner.
We're going to give you the floor first and allow you to give an intro as well.
Awesome. Well, my name's Scott Woolley. Like Patty mentioned, I'm a born and raised Aspen local. Proud to be one of best friends with my buddy Max back here. And I just really quickly wanted to also identify the rest of the candidates in the room and kind of what you spoke to earlier about the positive and supportive dynamic that we're seeing in this space, how many people signed up to be part of this process. I think it started at 14 and we've whittled it down. But I just wanted to thank everyone in the room for being part of this. And also to kind of put behind that the real importance of local and regional governance at a time like this. As, like you mentioned, SNAP and TANF funding is going away, as the federal government, state governments are struggling to put legislation on the books that can help us locally, but also just in terms of hearts and minds, how much local politics matters to the people. And as a born and raised Aspen local and Pickens County resident, I have a lot of experience with a lot of different kind of stakeholder groups in the community, including education, business, government. I also come with a lot of good connections and relationships and a capacity to, like Patty mentioned, to learn quickly. So I'll start there just for the purposes of brevity and give it back to you.
Okay. Nice to see you, Scott. Thanks for your service at APCHA.
Thank you, Francie.
Since you do serve on APCHA and pretty familiar with our inventory, do you think we have the capacity in the county to increase our housing supply, or do you see a limit somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, the limit is obviously going to be variable because I think, as was referred to in the past, we have kind of elastic demand. We have the more roads you build, the more houses you build, the more cars and jobs you create. And so there needs to be a balance struck between development, growth, open space, rural character, a lot of these kind of components that you guys are really familiar with. I mean, our most recent housing needs study from, I think, the city came back with 4,000 units. That includes the existing lumberyard project that we have on the books. So we obviously have a need as a community. The question is, first of all, what does that housing serve, and who does our economy serve? So right now we have more than 60% of our Pickens County economy, which is being imported into our county lines every day. We also just saw a transition between wage earnings and non-wage earnings happen. So that means that a lot of the money that we're seeing happening and the capital that's coming into the county isn't coming through labor. It isn't coming through contribution locally. So there's certainly balance that needs to be struck in terms of how much, how fast, where, and when. But I'm of the belief that we need to do everything. We need to conserve and increase the efficiency of our existing housing stock. We need to explore private-public partnerships to build more housing. We need to work on regional collaborative efforts with the city, with other counties that surround us, in order to do the best that we can to provide more housing that targets the people who live, work, and benefit Pickens County.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
Patty?
All right. So priorities, county priorities, your priorities, one or two that you think we should focus on for the next 10 months or beyond?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we have some really capital-intensive projects that are on the books. I want to start by congratulating you all on the great work that you've made towards updating our airport infrastructure, towards keeping our wastewater clean and our landfills productive. I think that those are really important projects. And in terms, I mean, fiscal responsibility has been mentioned a couple times in these conversations. And making sure that those projects don't affect our credit rating, making sure that those projects still allow us to have discretionary and targeted budgets for other important community values as outlined in the 2050 Vision Plan and Comprehensive Plan, I think are really important. So for me, that means balancing practical outcomes with aspirational goals. That'd be my first one. I think that my first priority is to balance what is needed and what's already in progress with the community-guided visions, which I think are laudable and impressive and incredibly difficult. And so balancing those things by coming to the table, being a productive and collaborative member of the team, and making sure that we follow through on the promises that we've made to build more social capital as an institution, because my second priority is civic engagement. While we have 9 people in the room who are interviewing today, I personally believe that our county can be more engaged, more participatory, and that we can better leverage the caucus system to drive more conversation about the direction that we take as a board, as a county, and as a community.
Great, thanks. Good answer.
What do you, follow up to Patty's then?
Yeah.
You mentioned caucus in your application.
Yeah.
I think it's part of what makes the community unique. How can we better engage that voice? That sort of, these are organized communities. There's a Snowmass caucus is tonight, 7 p.m.
That's right.
It has unique needs relative to the WOMP. So is there anything we should be doing with the caucuses that we're not in terms of leveraging that opportunity?
I think when you're building trust, well, first of all, I'm not going to say that you're not doing these things. I think there's already good work happening. But in terms of how do you build trust and buy-in from external stakeholder groups, for me, the answer is follow through. It's presenting, managing expectations early, and then following through on what you've committed to do. So for the caucuses, that I think would help them feel that we're more accountable and they have more agency to affect change. I think the more that we can make the people, the leaders, the business leaders, the environmental leaders, the social leaders of our community feel like they have the agency to create change, the more that we will recognize we have amazing community assets. Not just our physical assets with the county, but the people who choose to live here. If you chose to live in a place like Pitt County, there's something special about you, and I think that we need to listen as much as possible to make that valid for those people.
So you wrote about conservative land use.
Yeah.
So in terms of Vision 2050 and what the Community Growth Advisory Board worked on and our reduction of maximum house size, some things like that, are there any recommendations you would make to help us with our decisions about conservative land use?
Certainly. So I have a background in environmental policy. That's my education, as well as Mandarin Chinese, hence the fast learning thing. For me, I think the efforts that you've made limiting the size of housing is great. I think that that's an important step that we need to take. And obviously, based on the energy intensity numbers from the Pitt County data itself, we have more work to do. I think the number is a 13,000 square foot home creates 41 times more energy than a 10,000 square foot home. So that's a big delta between what you would expect, which is 13 times. You'd expect it to be 13 times more because it's 13 times bigger. But what you find is that there's a outsized increase in the intensity usage of these large homes. And so I would love to see more work done on limiting the size of homes, on limiting the energy intensity and use of the homes, and also to work on regional partnerships to try to deal with the import of labor that we're seeing, and kind of the outsized impact that these residential services are having on our traffic, on our wildlife, on our open space, and on our communities. So for me, that means, opening the door and having hard conversations with Eagle, Garfield County, all the way down to Mesa County about what kind of a demand we're creating and what impact and benefits it's having in their communities, and coming to the table with a collaborative spirit on how we might be able to work together. Right now, we have a lot of counties, 62% of our economy takes their paycheck home to another county. We have a card on the table. That's something that we can leverage in negotiations with good spirit and good faith to talk about how we work together collaboratively and regionally to address some of this demand for residential.
Thank you, Scott.
We've talked a lot about housing. That might be the easy one.
Come on.
So with a lack of federal funding, we've not seen our build grant or our raise grant that we're really looking to address multimodal issues in the transportation corridor. It's sort of similar to my SNAP and TANF question earlier. How do you address the transportation challenges between the airport and Buttermilk? What direction would you give to the EOTC and to stakeholders? So I'll get you out of the housing bubble for a minute.
I think that's great. Unfortunately, these are wicked problems. They're complex, systemic problems, and that we'd love to say that they exist in isolation and in silos, but they don't. And like Max spoke to, housing is related to job security, is related to transportation. And, another one of the applicants today mentioned, I wish we just didn't drive. I can relate to both of those views. But for me, it's a matter of what's the practical policy that we can use to try to disincentivize the behavior we don't want and incentivize the behavior that we do. My first step obviously would be to consult with staff because they're the experts on this. I would love to get more numbers about where our budgets are, about what kind of emergency funding is available. I would talk to our team of amazing professionals who are there with the information to make sure that we all, first of all, understand the baseline, but then also so we can have a more productive conversation about how we're going to move forward. In Pickens County, we have a lot of nonprofits who serve a lot of these similar spaces: transportation, housing, healthcare. I think that there's also room for coalition building, for more partnership, for when we face these problems as a community, we face them together. And often we address them in silos. And I think that that's what leads to bifurcation in outcomes. So for me, it's a matter of bringing more people to the table, having more of a collaborative spirit, engaging with our other community stakeholders and organizations, and leveraging the expertise of staff in order to have the best possible information so that when we put our heads together at the table, we can come to the best possible solution.
Thank you. Wrap-up comments or final questions?
How would you like to be remembered at the
Oh,
end
sorry.
of 10 months? I'm taking the Francie question and asking it through Patty's lingo, not Francie's.
The one who was raised by Patty Klepper. No,
We went on a lot of camping trips with Tom.
that's true. I've been trying to get my godson up to Chapman to try to bring that back. Hopefully not the fast van drive down with the allergic shock. But anyway, I really like kind of Max's reaction and response to this, which is, I don't know that that's why I'm signing up for this job. What I would much prefer is that people remember we went through a phase of incredible capital acquisition. We used that money intelligently and practically to build assets and improve assets which served our community. And then we came out of it with the mentality that we really do want to address our vision for 2050. We really do want to reduce climate impacts by 90%. We really do want to protect rural character. You know, that what's remembered about my term is not me as an individual, but the actions that we as a board take together to meet the laudable goals that you've already established.
Thanks, Scott.
And again, you're welcome. Anything that you get on the bus tonight, you walk home and you wish you shared with the board.
I would just say that as was outlined in the city manager's memo, our county is at a crossroads. And not just one of them, all of them, kind of all at the same time, all in the next 10 months, which is fascinating, exciting, inspiring, and terrifying, I think, for a lot of people, especially who are joining a decision-making table. I'm capable of balancing complex information, of keeping my own personal interest out of the conversation, and of acting in a collaborative way with the team. I also have good connections with city leadership, city staff, and I think that at this juncture, as you know, I've watched and rewatched the joint meeting between the BoCC and City Council, there's ample opportunity, I will frame this in a positive light, for more bridge building, for more collaborative spirit, for more co-designing, for more information sharing, for a lot of our siloed decision making to open our doors to each other and make better decisions together. I'd be happy to offer that bridge building. I'd be happy to offer the passion, knowledge, and expertise that I have as an Aspen local, but also as an existing sitting board member on county projects and with other local nonprofits and committees in the area. So I'm really excited about this. I'm also grateful for all of your leadership and for everyone else in the room, and I'm willing to commit to make this a full-time and long-term passion of mine. So thank you all for your time.
Scott,
Thank you, Scott.
Scott, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Dora.
And
Hi,
I just have to
Andorra.
apologize for the error. I'm sorry, Andorra, that I missed the 2 R's in your name in the agenda.
Thank you.
So I apologize. It's on me.
I appreciate it. I can turn off my mic so you can yell at me if you'd like. So you can get even with me.
We'll just say Mike. You know, go, Mike who?
So again, I think you sort of get in the format after your number 5. So we'd love for you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and open up the conversation with the board.
For the record, I'm Andorra Ronay. I've lived in the Valley for about 13 years, but my mom was actually born here. Before I lived here, I was in Yosemite for about 10 years, and both of my parents we're park rangers. So very much established in nature. I'm the youngest of 6. So community and nature, very much the forefront of how I was raised. I've always had a closer connection with like the county over state or like city things. My dad retired as a sheriff, not here, but in Mariposa. And my mom, she retired in the airport in Aspen. So I don't know if I've always associated the airport with county, but after working here, she retired there, and I have much experience in an airport. So, yeah, I'm open to questions.
Welcome, Andorra. It's nice to see you sitting at the table with us.
Thank you.
So after sitting here for the last few years and hearing the discussions that go on, what do you think is, what do you see yourself giving the most energy to if you were chosen? Is there an area that you would really like to immerse yourself in?
Like the priority wise?
She's taking my question.
Very much like community engagement. I think it's a priority, and the fact that I think over the past few years, at least from my perspective, it might just be that when I first came here, I was kind of new to like a city that was so, I don't know, community oriented. I don't know how to say it, but like I feel like it's been lacking the like community engagement. Like this is just one piece of the puzzle, but the fact that we don't have any pizza establishments anymore in town other than New York Pizza, like they can't just like sit down and have a pizza party anymore. Like you can't just like for children, at least in my mind, I feel like their community has been like disintegrated a little bit. So I'm worried about that priority in terms of like Parks and Rec, like more towards like the children and their engagement and their recreational use over, let's say, like capital use.
Okay.
So I'm going to expand on the question Francie asked. So if you're looking at, you're familiar with the county's priorities because you've heard us say them over and over again. And so things more functional like housing or transportation or, public lands, or where would you, fiscal responsibility, transparency, I heard you say with the children and community engagement, but where else would you like to see us focused on our specific priorities over the next 10 months or more?
Priority-wise, I think the fact that we have, we being the county, including the city, we have so many massive capital projects. I think, I appreciate that Scott Woolley went in front of me, actually, because he said a lot of things that I would agree with and I had written down. I think collaboration is a top priority, especially given the fact that we're going to have a lot of construction workers near the airport area, and you guys work specifically with RAFTA, so to have a bus that drives for them, that would be a priority. Yeah, transit mostly in capital projects. Well, the transit is just the smallest piece of it. I mainly mean collaboration with not even just City of Aspen, but with the rest of the councils that you have within your county, like Snowmass, Basalt, the rest of them.
Great. Thanks, Andor.
So we haven't mentioned wildfire all afternoon, and so it's time. Given the record low snow water equivalent, we're at roughly 54% before today. We have new codes coming in from the state. We've yet to address hail as a state. And we've got limited resources relative to other states like California. So if you were sitting in the Commissioner 2 seat, what other tools or resources would you want to see deployed locally in advance of what could be an earlier fire season? I'll just leave it at that.
So I'm actually really glad you asked this question, given
You
that.
said ranger, so I.
No,
I heard
I'm
park-
from Yosemite, and that
I heard
is the
park
heart,
ranger, so I
like-
wanted to give you something personalized, Andorra.
Mariposa is evacuated almost annually for wildfires, so it's actually a really important question. I think given like the dry climate of Aspen, it's really like mitigation. So most people, when they hear about wildfire in Aspen, they think the evacuation, given like the bridge, is the most important thing. But I'm actually worried about like the back roads and being like trees taking over and them not really having like an escape, like more in the rural areas. But I think a way to mitigate that, especially given the fact that we have, I know it's been cut back since federal funding has been cut back, like our rangers and our other people that we have out in the open lands, but we really need to cut back on like branches, like in other weeds and stuff. I know we have been practicing controlled burns more and more annually, but I've been noticing like taking the bus and everything. I don't drive, I only do public transit, so I get to like get a personal view of everything that I'm going past. And so all of the broken branches that are still on the tree that are a hazard to not only pedestrians that are on the sidewalk, but also to potential, wildfires, like dry branches that are just stuck on the trees, that'll just be more weight on the trees. That's my position.
I appreciate it. How would you describe your leadership style?
My leadership style, I wouldn't necessarily say I had, like, my problem is I kind of see too many things at one time. So I'll say, like, with one-on-one person, I'll, like, list out 16 different ways to go about it, and they'll think that I'm giving them 16 different instructions. So at least something that I need to work on is limiting what I'm saying. So something that, like the importance of, like, just being quiet and sitting back and actually, like, collecting your thoughts and what everybody else in the group is doing. And I'll say, as the youngest sibling of 6, I'm very good at group activity and group deliberation. So I'm very excited, like, and I've watched this council in previous boards, and I've definitely been inspired by them. I've been learning from them. Kelly especially has been a huge inspiration for me, and I'm hoping to, I couldn't potentially even think to fill her shoes, but to walk into those footsteps and, like, her inspiration, especially fashion-wise, if I can just, like, be a reflection of that, that'd be
Wait a minute.
that's just one of her many qualities, I'm sorry. Sorry to be off topic. Again, that's one of my issues.
It's difficult to compete with Kelly Green. You can't win.
So a leadership quality, I would say, is, like, being able to see a lot of scopes at once, like a ton of different perspectives and, like, different, like, runways to go in at one time, which can also be a detriment.
So I
I think
think
that's because you were the youngest of 6, which I can think.
I just have to collect what, like, they're not telling me anything. I just have to, like, collect the information as I go.
Quietly in the corner until such
Exactly.
time as.
so. I think there's a how to be remembered question potentially.
Yes. How would you like to be remembered after 10 months or?
I think, like, an overall legacy. So I know for 10 months, I can hope for a lot of things, but I would expect that my, like, overall legacy would be vibrance. You know me, like, I have different hair every other week.
I know, we're
I
always
dress
waiting.
up all vibrant. But in, like, overall lifetime, quote unquote, I think, like, family man. Like, I truly carry every single one of my siblings, every single one of my family members, and other people that I've met throughout my life, like friends, other, like, leaders that I've seen, teachers. So, I don't know, just, I want to be remembered for the people that I had in my life, I think.
That's great.
Thank you.
And
Well, I will remember you as incredibly enjoyable company.
Thank you.
And I'll always remember those wonderful little gifts you made for us. So thank you. This was so enjoyable.
Thank you.
and Dora, anything else, comments you want to leave us with as well?
I'll say at least for the listening public, for the record, I have been attending all of the meetings for the last 4 years. BoCC, City of Aspen, as well as APSHA and EOTC, and the occasional HOA presentation. So I very much have gotten the back seat and learned not only like how proceedings work, but like the thoughts of my community, and I've learned the thoughts of my commissions and other things. Other thoughts.
I think it's important, Jeffrey,
Yeah,
for the
please.
public and the people in this room to know, she does. She sits through all of our meetings. I don't even know if there's a word for it, and she's very patient with us.
Oh, also I wanted to show that throughout this isn't just a whim. I have wanted to run. I wanted to run when Kelly termed out because I couldn't. Who am I to run against the Kelly? I could never. So I was waiting for her to term out in about like 4 years from now. So that was my 5-year plan. So this isn't just a spur of the moment thing. I've very much always been into politics since like middle school. I'm talking too much. I'm sorry. Anyway, these are the notes that I've written, like full pages of notes that I've written since I've been sitting back here. I don't just sit there. I do listen, and I do have thoughts that I've written down since. So, just wanted to show that I have been engaged in the process and very interested. Thank you very much for your time.
Likewise,
Thanks,
Andorra.
Andorra.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Hey, Mike,
Mike. I make sure they're all on.
so Amy and Andorra, we're on break.
How long a break do we get, Mr. Chair?
We'll be back in 15. Session. This is the second half of.
She's not back there.
Good afternoon, Pitkin County. This is the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. It's February 17th, 2:30 p.m. It is not Groundhog Day. This is, I get a movie reference in every meeting. This is the continuation of the District 2 Commissioner applicant interviews, and first up at 2:30 is Tom Egan.
Hi, Tom.
Microphones.
It has to be red light on.
Okay, should be good.
So similar format, you're welcome to introduce yourself, give us an intro, and we will ask questions of the reference desk.
Okay, great, because I haven't seen anything else. I'm coming in clean on this, having been working until moments ago. Intro is, my name's Tom Egan, and I cannot make anonymous phone calls in Aspen anymore. And that's because I was on the radio for a long time, starting in the 1980 actually, and on through until a couple of years ago. So that's where my history is, as far as people might know who I am, for what it's worth. Insofar as intro generally, I moved here in 76, so I experienced the 76-77 drought winter. And this one's not as bad because the lifts didn't open until January 11th that year. Just a little point of history. I worked at the Historical Society for years, and that's part of what I really love about Aspen is the history and Pitkin County. The reason I put my name in the hat here is I felt in the past that sometimes there have been these situations where a term has ended early and someone has to fill it, and there weren't enough people to make it a good choice. So I wanted to represent the ski bum crowd and figured this would be a good way to do it. So I currently work at the library. I'm in pre-retirement, so I'm 2 days a week at the library. And a thing that I did want to say about the Board of County Commissioners is I was politically active in high school and into college. It was the Nixon years, and I was in a position of elected authority within those places, and I came up against the power of people who have power and want to wield it, and so crushed us in our high school ideas of getting things done. So I kind of burned on the political thing. Hence the move to Aspen, like many people did, get out of the whole Nixon thing, come up, learn how to ski. But I always paid attention and stayed involved in it certainly in the voting sense and some campaigning here and that. What I'm getting at is in all of that, the one political group that I've always had respect for is the Board of County Commissioners of Pitkin County. The city council is great. I have had issues with our local national representation for years. And I can't say I'm impressed with National Congress and national things, but to me, this board has always done what I wanted it to do. So when the opportunity came up, I thought, well, this is a group I'd love to be a part of,
Excellent.
if only briefly.
Well, this is pretty enjoyable. As far as I'm concerned, you can just keep talking.
Would you like a weather forecast?
He's got that great voice. You recognize him anywhere.
I'll kick us off.
Yeah.
The board has spent quite a bit of time over the past year with our congressional representatives, and that's both in Grand Junction as well as in D.C., given the pressures on our local economy. And so this is not going back to Nixon, but this is, how would you approach working with both Junction and D.C. in 2026, given the environment, given a lot of what we're doing right now is dependent on both state and federal funding.
Yeah.
So while I appreciate the accolades locally, I think a lot of our work is at the state and federal level. So how would you approach that? Given we have an airport that's governed by the FAA, that's partially funded by the government. I'll leave you with that sort of opening.
It's a great question because I've been thinking about that a lot lately, actually, just on my own time when I get up in the morning. And personally, I think personal connections with other elected officials and other bodies are critical. I would get to know Jeff Hurd, for instance, more than I don't know him at all at this point. I think that's important. I asked about that when I was here on Friday, and it seems like there are some responses coming up. I don't know if behind the scenes is the right word. But my most honest answer is I'm not sure how you deal with it, to be honest with you. I mean, I think you start with personal relationships. I think you eat the elephant one bite at a time. You start in little things and work ahead. I personally think there's a layer of fear nowadays insofar as funding goes, for instance. I think Pitkin County, Aspen, and a lot of places might have maybe not, might have a stronger and perhaps even aggressive response to what's going on. But I think there's a fear they'd send ICE in, and destroy the economy or cut more funding. So my knee-jerk reaction is to get attention and bring attention to the issue. I have interesting way of doing that. I don't really think this is the place for it, but I could get the attention of the president really easily, I think. And I don't know that that's the right approach, to be honest with you. So I would work from the ground up with people and take it where it goes.
What would you do to get the attention of the president?
No, we
You want to
don't.
know my plan?
I do.
Okay, this might sink my chances here, but yeah, I would want to. He likes to have the things named after him, and so I would want to do that, you know, and it would be
Uh-oh.
the Donald J. Trump Central Repository for American Pride, Prestige, and Power, which is the Donald J. Trump Crap Institute. And we would be renaming the overflow tank at the sewage plant.
I figured it was
Donald
something
J.
like that.
Trump.
I was trying to follow the acronyms. Jeffrey probably had it down before I.
3 Ps, but you know, that would get his attention.
Okay.
And you know, to take it a step further, you know, I would want to say, look, we'll take the name away if you give us our deserved money back. You know, because that seems to be the game he plays. You know,
Okay.
I don't think you can do that, really. I don't think that would be a good idea. But, you know, I've lived here long enough to see that we've kind of always had a level of humor in our politics around here that I
Thank goodness.
appreciate, and I hope we continue to have.
Thank goodness.
So if we're driving home tonight and you see the new sign at the Aspen Water and Sand District,
So you'd have to agree it would get his attention.
Um,
Aspen, Colorado, where he was smart enough to bring his mistress and his wife.
I saw him walking from the Little Nell that day, actually.
Yeah, and I rode up with Ivana the next year.
Well, it would be a lot of fun to have you up here at the
So-
table with us.
so,
Anyway.
Patty,
Yes, priorities. We're going back to
Yeah,
serious.
sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's just us. So you have priorities. The county has their priorities. You have your priorities. So if you picked like one or two of the priorities that we really should focus on for the next 10 months or more.
Well, I think the airport's the obvious in the room. I have a personal issue with the entrance to Aspen. I know it tends to be a little more probably city than county, but you know, how many times have we voted on it since I've been here? I find it the most embarrassing political thing that we've had here. You know, so I would love to, whatever can be done to keep that moving along. And housing, of course. You know, I lived down Valley for 20 years. I sat in that traffic for 20 years. And I consider the people in the Mid-Valley the same as Aspen residents when it comes to how we should be handling the situation of traffic and getting them in. Because if we don't have those people, we don't have a town. You know, that's, what is it, 62% of our workforce or whatever the number is. So, you know, the entrance to Aspen, I think, is critical. I'm not necessarily blind enough to think that the current solution is the be all and end all, but something. Gosh, I'd love to see something happen. You know,
He just wants to vote again.
that's it. I can't wait to vote on it again. But I think the airport is a big one, and I think it's moved along nicely, I guess. You know, I've been to a couple of the meetings at the library,
Seen you. Thank you.
and I think that process has been good. But I haven't read the whole 640 pages of stuff, so there might be things I don't know.
I look at all the pictures.
Mhm.
I look at all the pictures.
Yeah.
I made it through
She
all
likes
the
the
pictures.
fold-outs.
And they're nice.
So one of the questions we really haven't touched on today is affordability. And one of the issues we have in the Valley with house prices where they are, insurance prices, both auto as well as wildfire and hail. And then we have the looming crisis, which is both Eagle and Garfield are growing at a faster pace than Pitkin. So maybe we have this in reverse. Maybe the transportation is actually going to focus more on Eagle and Garfield. They're growing at roughly 25% over the next 25 years, whereas the population of Pitkin is going to be flat. And so it's sort of an economic question for you, given that shift in the demographics where Pitkin is both sort of aging in place and not growing, and both Eagle and Garfield are growing at pretty rapid pace. What should we be doing from an economic development standpoint to support a thriving economy?
Great question. Boy, complicated answer, I would say. in those moments when I think about a lot of things, I think about the inequities, and I think about, you know, for the ease of description, the Red Mountain crowd, you know, versus the rest of us, which is somewhat unfair. I think that's the sort of thing that kind of needs to be dealt with in the future, as far as not just Pitkin, Eagle, and Garfield County goes, but I think the whole planet, to be honest with you. You know, the thing I think that people forget about economy and this and that is the world population since I moved here in 1976 has more than doubled. Now, that's not to say we've got twice as many people coming to Aspen, but it's just a general feeling. The price of things has more than doubled, you know, way more than doubled since the 70s. So I think some of these inequities that are growing, not just Pitkin, not Garfield, Eagle, I think they need to be dealt with on a societal level in my view. And again, it's such a big ask. How do you change the way society functions? And I don't know the answer to that, which probably ultimately means I think we go along as we are and adjust as Eagle and Garfield come along. But again, coming back to Aspen and Pitkin County, I've always felt that we've taken on these issues head on, huge issues, national issues. We'll deal with them here. We'll show you how to fix it. The housing issue is a good one. We haven't fixed it, but in the 70s we started to fix it, and it's working. It's not working exactly how everyone meant. To me, that's something that the world can take and work on. The mall was another one. I mean, got the idea of taking streets and taking the parking of it. You can't drive to it. It was nuts. That worked out too. So these are things that I think Aspen has shown the world. The Ideas Festival brought things out to the world from here. And so, you know, call me unicorns and rainbows, but I'd love to try to start tackling that larger societal issue. And I think we're the perfect place to do it. And it gets back to my what I said earlier about personal relationships. I'd love to see something happen, almost a summit. But again, these are things you probably couldn't do. What do we have, 124 billionaires in Aspen, something like that? and I know a few of them. I'd love to sit down somewhere, no official meeting necessarily, and sit there and say, hey, look, you know, we've got this situation in society. You guys are on this end. We're on this end. How can we fix it? They'd laugh, probably, and we'd all move on, and it wouldn't happen. But to me, that's where to answer your question about Garfield, Eagle, Pitkin, I think it's a much larger issue, and I think it needs to be dealt with in a generational manner. And I don't see a reason why we shouldn't start here. I think Aspen's come up with a lot of great ideas. So,
Francie.
So I read the other day that Jeff Bezos has $328 billion. So he could cover the entire airport
yeah,
and not change his lifestyle at all. I've thought about that quite a
even
few
know
times. Anyway, we do have an incredible economic disparity in our valley, more than most places. It's really exaggerated here. And I agree, it would be great to take it on here at the, where a lot of good ideas have come from over the years. But I unfortunately have this libertarian streak in me that prevents me from wanting to punish people because they're not in their house 12 months a year, like a vacancy tax. Or there are a few approaches that, maybe in the end I would vote for, but I have a hard time with that. So I wonder if you have any ideas on how we can distribute the wealth a little bit better. Just here in our local government, not worldwide, just here in our local government.
right. Well, what I would start here in local government, you could replicate worldwide. For instance, one thing I've thought, and I'm not an economist, so I don't really know how it would work. That's why I'd want to sit down with the people who've made $250 billion and see what they think. Because these people are smart. They know the same. They see the same things we do. I mean, they just aren't worried about it, in my view. But so I have an interesting one. I don't know if this is viable at all. I worked in radio for years, I helped one radio station come alive from the dead, you know, if, as it were. And then management changes, everyone gets fired, we all have to move on. But the station gets to continue the advantage of what the group of us who kind of saved it did, and with no thanks or anything. My thought, this is crazy really, is at a certain point, I don't know what point it is, companies are required to go to basically owner operated. Not really, but so for instance, Costco is an employee owned business. I think at a certain point, and I don't know the numbers, but I think you would have to, if you worked at a company for a year, you get 0.1% of the profit sharing of the company. And then if you're there 2 years, you get more. And then when you quit, you still have that when you leave. So at the end of your 60, 50 years of working, you might have 50 of these little chits that you own parts of these companies that you helped deal with things. And so you can get some of that money back. Where does that money come from? Well, it comes from the people who own the company, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's profit sharing, essentially.
Alpine Bank is employee owned. Alpine Bank is employee owned.
Yeah. And I think that's a key. And, you know, so how do you make that work? How do you make someone who has all the money in the world say they want to give some of it away? I mean, taxation is one obvious way. I'm not sure how you would tax that into
Only
a situation.
that, yeah.
But, you know, I think talking to these people and saying, look, we're going to collapse if we don't do something. I don't know. I just think that it's a question that hasn't really been dealt with head on as far as I can see, with the people involved who would really be a part of it. And not being an economist, I don't know how that would work, but I know that, you know, when I see some of the companies I've worked for continually getting, you know, value from what I did years ago, the only one who's getting that value is the owner of the company.
Right.
And so if there's a way to craft a situation whereby once your company reaches a certain point or X or whatever, I don't know, is it voluntary? Is it, if you become a $100 million company, do you have to do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know
thank
all
you
those.
for your thoughts.
But
Thank you.
it's a big enough thought where I think you could have fun with it.
Tom, I'd love some closing comments from you.
Wait.
Oh, sorry. Eulogy question.
She has a question.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, how would you like to be remembered for your time served on this board, other than your voice?
I would assume I'd get used for my voice while I was there. You know, I've been blamed for a lot of stuff in the town over the years, so I can handle that part. I'd just like to be remembered as someone who helped the board continue to do what it's always done, in my view, which is kind of quietly run the county and keep things good, come up with new ideas, come up with fresh things. But yeah, I'd like to be remembered as someone who was just part of it, really.
And I have one quick.
Please.
Is not one of your most favorite places in this valley our library?
Of course it is.
I love the library. Thank you for being there, Tom.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Closing comments.
No, I just you know, I think you've got some great candidates here, to be honest with you. I know a number of them, so I'm thrilled regardless of the decision you make, because I'm sure it'll be a good one. Is that a good enough closing comment?
That's a good one.
Thank you, Tom.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
And he does have a great voice.
Kid, you're up.
I don't know if I can follow that voice.
Hi, Katie.
I mean,
I give my parents all the credit.
I think it's my own personal insecurity around what my voice sounds like on microphone, having heard it too many times. But thank you all for
Likewise.
having me here. Appreciate it. So let's see, a little about me. My name's Katie Frisch. I am honored to be here today. Thank you very much for opening up this process and doing it so quickly. I'm also very excited that we have so many amazing candidates, people that I've known for so long, that are all part of this, and we've all been kind of joking in the back. So hopefully you haven't heard that through the microphone. My husband and I moved here 20 some years ago and have spent the vast majority of our time doing what we call elected community service. So participating in both an elected role as well as volunteer role. We raised two great kids here who hopefully aren't watching right now because they should be studying. And I really just, the reason I'm here is to continue that service and try to help however I can. I've had roles on the school district board, spent 13 years with AVSC on their board, financial advisory board for the school district as well, and a bunch of other volunteer and community-oriented boards. So thank you, and I'm really excited to be here.
Questions for Katie?
I'll let you start with your list.
I had one for you.
Oh, no.
You ready?
I'm ready.
So thank you for attending the 101. I think many of you did. So the budget narrative that was included in the 2026 budget outlines mandates, service levels, and federal and state budget cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Several projects come to the board throughout the year. How do you manage what's not in the 2026 budget and 5-year plan? Some are opportunistic and may fit within the developed budget and plan. Others may require either dedicated staff time or funding.
So how do you manage new things that come up?
We as a board in the fourth quarter have state mandated budget approval.
Mm-hmm.
We all, fine tooth comb, go through head count, go through budget, go through capital expenditures. And then throughout the year, it's either the spanner in the spokes, the gravel in the gears, but stuff that comes in that doesn't have people against it, but it's a budget request.
Right.
And so it's really how do you deal with it? And it could slow the organization down as you deal with stuff that's not a priority.
Right. Well, I mean, first of all, it's important to recognize that there's no one budget per se. There's a general fund and many other funds, and they're all correlated and there's transfers between them, but each fund has its own budget per se. So understanding the concept of government accounting and how that works will certainly help with the decision-making process. Secondly, the board is not the county manager. The county manager is the county manager. Thank you, Kara, for being the interim county manager right now. So I think it's really vital to recognize that the role that the board plays is not one of making individual budgetary decisions at the detail level. It's listening to staff, listening to the county, and also listening to the constituents, listening to the community to find out what their priorities are. I would not be surprised if we have things that come up that aren't being covered. You talked about SNAP before, where the funding is for our airport, all that kind of stuff. So decisions will have to be made in concert with staff. So there's no one answer. There's no one person who's making a decision on these kinds of things.
I'll go. This is not a surprise question. Priorities.
Priorities.
After the county's priorities, your priorities, what priorities do you think we should really be focused on in the next 10 months or beyond?
Execution. I think the county has a lot on its plate right now.
Can you define execution?
Yes. Execution of the major capital projects. So not of any individual. The airport in particular, right? That is the biggest undertaking that this community has seen in decades. And it is vital for both the environment, the natural and built environment, and for the community and the lives of the people in our community to get that right. So for me, the short-term priority, 10 months, is making sure the planning on that is executed properly, supporting the county manager and staff, going through the process of figuring out who the next county manager will be too, whether that's internal or external, and making sure that we have the capabilities to execute on what we've promised the community through, both a voting structure saying we're going to handle this. Well, we need to handle it. We need to issue a bond. We need to spend that wisely. And the one thing that I feel that I bring to the table is some experience in having done that with the school district bond. We raised $114 million and we're able to spend that down over the course of my tenure in about 4 years, really 3 years before we had spent most of it. It is a process to undertake that and to do things well and execute things well. And critical for everybody's day-to-day lives and everybody's long-term long-term lives.
Thank you.
I have a question for you from Greg, who's in Chile.
Okay, great.
He will watch this.
Hi,
however.
Greg. He's listening.
So he says, we see adjoining counties growing at alarming rates over the past decades, with an acceleration of growth since the pandemic. Pitkin County has made it a policy to slow growth for the past 50 years. Please discuss your ideas about managing growth and the ever-present opportunity to grow more capacity for people in the county.
So that's a great question, Greg. Thank you from wherever you are. The point of growth is not growth, right? We have a community vision. You guys have spent a lot of time working on this in the last few years, and I think at the last meeting you decided to go forward with it, Vision 2050. The county has not, and the city have not set rules that have made it easy to grow quickly, and that has been done for a reason. We want to maintain a sense of place here. It's very important. People are here for a reason, and we want to make sure, as a community and as a board, I assume you want to make sure that that sense of place is honored and continues. So I don't personally think growth should be for the sake of growth. I don't. If Eagle and Garfield and Gunnison and Mesa are all growing faster than we are, that's okay. That's what we have put into. We've put a lot of environmental restrictions on building. We try to slow things down. I think that it's important to keep the growth within the urban growth boundary, or where things are already existing. I look at Phillips as an example. That is not within the urban growth boundary, but it is a project that was there. So yes, it makes sense to continue it there. I think it's important that we have transit solutions within projects like that, so that we're not creating more problems for ourselves. That should be accessible from RAFTA or other, hopefully, future transit solutions down the line.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back to your bonding answer.
Okay.
So we have a bond issue in 2026. It's the expiry of the Healthy Community Fund. So we've spoke about a lot losses at the federal and state level. Clearly, it's more critical than ever, and no surprise, it's going to be a competitive year as in 2026 with midterms. But we also potentially have wildfire funds, other ballot initiatives from the school. So what efforts should the county take in order to ensure the successful passing of either the same mill rate with no increase in taxes, or potentially, given the state and federal cuts, an increase to the Healthy Community Fund?
I personally believe we need to be careful about tax increases. Renewals is one thing. Continuing to increase taxes on property with all of the other constituents that are trying to pull the school districts, is a great example. So I would be cautious about that, for sure. We need to focus on priorities that we can afford to do. I think we'd probably like to do everything, but unfortunately nobody can. So that's where the decision comes in. And again, this is not something that only the commissioners need to work on. This is something that you draw from staff and you draw from the community to make sure that their priorities are set. One thing that we used in the past in the school district, and that I've done a lot of in my work with the congressional campaigns, is polling. What does the community care about? We have this long-term vision, but things change from day to day. Are people going to be open to an increase with all these other increases? Or should we, look at keeping it the same? So that's part of doing community research, talking to community members, but also finding out what people are thinking. It's important.
Thank you. Follow-up question, changing topics a little bit.
Sure.
Your own personal leadership style. So the specific question is, the board has undergone DISC training. We were forced by the former county manager to understand where we were in terms of quadrants. How would you describe your own personal leadership style and strengths and challenges that you see in your leadership style meshing with what you see on this board?
I think, Myers-Briggs, I'm an EFTJ or something. I don't remember. So I am somewhat analytical in my decision-making process. But I view leadership and management as about people. It's not the most important thing that I've learned from 20 years of running a company is that how you interact with people and how you make decisions is what your leadership style is all about. It's bringing people together. Different people sometimes need different things out of you. They're thinking the way that, what bucket they fall in or quadrant. I haven't taken that particular test, so I don't know, what the lingo is, but understanding how different people work and working within that framework. Management and leadership is all about working with people effectively, honoring their thoughts, beliefs, having conversations, and working well together, which I think is, an important part of being on a board. Did that answer the question well enough?
Dominance, influence, steadiness, conscientiousness. DISC.
DISC, yes. I'm old school, so I'm Myers-Briggs. That's
Patty.
Don't look at me.
Francis.
I'll do another Greg question
okay. Great.
because they've just been sitting here all afternoon.
I'm
forgot
the
to
only one who
ask
gets
them.
Greg questions. On
So far. So this one is open space preservation and affordable housing consistently carry equal weight as priorities for our community. How do your priorities line up with these often conflicting community demands of growth versus open space and habitat protection?
Again, I kind of get back to the sense of place conversation that we had earlier, which is I think it's really important. We're all here for different reasons. People either grew up here, were drawn here, whether it's a natural environment or Aspen and this community is one of the only places in the world where you can actually have an urban cultural environment in a rural mountain town. And there's amazing things here. People come for art, people come for music, people come for hiking. So I think it's important that we maintain that sense of place, whatever we do, that balance between the open environment and the built environment. I don't believe that we should be building housing, to cover absolutely everything. And I also don't believe that we shouldn't be housing people. There is a balance between that. And I think it's important to do the work on the vision plan and continue to honor that and to balance it. I mean, again, keeping within the urban growth boundary and making sure that we have a vibrant economy where people are able to be employed and raise their families and enjoy the outdoors.
Thank you on behalf of Greg. and
You're
myself.
welcome, Greg.
We're going to test him to see if he does watch the videos. I've got some questions lined up to him.
We can ask him which questions we're
I
asking.
remember when they said, and I'll say they never said that, Greg. So would you like me to do
Please.
So at the end of the day, how would you like to be remembered for the time you serve on this board?
I view this as one, if I were be so honored to be selected, I view this as one portion of a lifelong of community service. So this is sort of one piece of the whole puzzle. So I wouldn't want to be reminded or remembered for one particular thing I did, but rather that, I love this community. We've made our home here. We'll continue to make our home here. And raise our kids here, and anything I can do to help contribute to the community. So this is part of that. I also think that Kelly, one of the things that I think we'll miss about her is she did spend a lot of time in Denver. And you as well, Patty, in DC, and I do think from some of my experience in the last few years. Working in CD3, I am able to bring in some of that experience. I understand sort of the rural aspects and what people are bringing to the table from our neighboring counties and what's important to them. And I've spent a lot of time out there talking to people, as well as meeting other electeds. And, I would hope that I would be able to bring a statewide, certainly regional-wide expertise and experience to bear on what we're working on.
Thanks, Katie.
So, no more obituary questions? No.
We've got to come up with a better.
Okay, I would also like to be remembered for my children and my husband and my dog.
There was a eulogy or obituary show at the Aspen Art Museum.
There probably was. Yeah.
Which was
I think
excellent.
That's weird.
I know.
That was
Wow.
excellent. Yeah, there was
Contemporary art. It's good.
back in the
It's good
Weird
stuff.
Show days.
Yes.
how would you like to take us out? You want to do some final comments?
Just again, thank you for the opportunity. I think you guys have done a lot of really hard work over the last couple of years, and you have a very, very full plate for the next couple of years. And my view would be that I would want to help execute on those plans and strategies. And, I don't see that there's a lot of space for a lot of new things in the short term. I think that 417, is that right? Staff members have a full plate.
Yeah.
But I would hope to be able to help bridge between the community and the board and staff to, help use the management experience I have to execute and do so successfully and thoughtfully.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks for your time.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
Yeah,
Stay awake.
likewise.
Thanks a lot, Katie. Good to see you.
Emily Colby.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. We promise no disc questions for you.
Okay.
Yeah, similar to the last
Thank you.
7. Thank you for being our 8th.
Thank you for having
welcome.
me as the eighth.
But we'd love for you to start out and then tell us.
My name is Emily Colby. I am not born and raised here, but I did grow up in the Valley. My parents moved here before I was 9, and we went back and forth between Michigan and here. I am a graduate of the Aspen School District. Went through elementary, middle school, and high school here. I have raised a child here myself. I have taught in our schools. I own a business for 20 years. It is a pizza restaurant. Sorry, I have to admit that. And we do service a lot of children and families, and we enjoy that very much. I am an avid outdoor enthusiast. I love to recreate in our mountains. I appreciate the people who come here to visit, come here to work, come here to play. I am looking forward to advancing quality of life in Aspen. That's why I'm here.
Questions for Emily? So you own a business locally.
I do.
Describe your leadership style at that business. And again,
Dynamic.
yeah.
Dynamic. I know that you have had a system, and I believe is the DISC, and I'm not sure that I'd probably fall more into steady.
Okay.
In that I show up, I work hard, I am consistent, I'm reliable, and I'm dependable, and I can be there for my employees. I've had the same kitchen staff for all 20 years.
That's phenomenal.
We reinvest in our employees to provide stable housing. I do believe in public-private partnerships, but I also believe that the libertarian in me also knows that as a business owner, it's really important to have employees. And that pressure is also upon you to take care of your employees with a living wage, help in housing, help in quality of life. And I believe in it full-heartedly.
Please.
Yeah, I was really impressed when I read that. I manage Fat Belly Burgers.
Yes, you do, and I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have not had the same employees for 20 years. I have had the same cook for 15.
That is really an impressive number. Well done.
And his wife is now my on-site manager. So that's good,
Right?
but it's not your record. So
Doesn't have to be. That's phenomenal.
So my question is, I am not an on-site manager, but you are. So that's going to be quite a juggling act to be on the Board of County Commissioners and have run your restaurant. I'm wondering how you picture managing that.
For years, thank you. That's a great question, by the way. For years, I have actually been training different staff members on different elements of the business in order to give them trainable tools so that whether they stay with me or whether they move on, they'd have those tools to go forward with for themselves. So if I move forward, someone else or a team will step in. And if not, they will still have those skills to go forward in their own lives and move forward and advance.
So you're not worried about it?
there's always a worry. You're a business owner. It could become gypsies in the palace instantly. No, I think that it's part of the trust and the business dynamics and part of empowering other people.
Okay, thanks.
I'm going to ask the priority question. Surprise.
Please.
So out of the priorities that the board has and that you have in reading your application, what one or two would you, or something new that you might want to throw out to prioritize in the next 10 months or beyond?
Thank you. I appreciate the option to be able to say something beyond what is just in the application and beyond what we've also been hearing. Of course, environment, housing, transportation, these are things that you as a board have already identified as priorities, and we as candidates are also in full support of. And myself, I'll speak directly to myself instead of generally. However, or no, not however, in addition, I do believe that a priority would be the Healthy Community Fund at a time when financing programs is in question. The breadth of programs that fund services and allows to remain within our county for the entire community, cradle to grave, and quite frankly, beyond, before cradle and after grave, I think is absolutely significant. And it keeps some of those dollars and that investment off of our books. And I think that that's an incredibly important program and fund to ensure going forward.
Can I just...
Please, follow up.
So would you think if you were appointed to this board, we're contemplating a ballot question? It takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. I don't know if you've ever really pushed through a ballot question. It's not easy to do. Is that something you would be willing to take on, to challenge, to ensure that we have critical funding for those programs in years to come?
I certainly feel that I would be strongly supportive of it and would work with anyone doing so. I'm not sure I have the expertise, so I would need some support from the board collectively in order to make that happen. Absolutely, though.
It's an easy lesson to learn.
Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely.
I think I'll ask you a Greg question.
Okay.
One of the two I've already asked, and I'll read it again for you. Open space preservation and affordable housing consistently carry equal weight as priorities for our community. How do your priorities line up with these often conflicting community demands for growth, meaning housing in this case, versus open space and habitat protection?
Absolutely. I would operate very carefully and on a case-by-case basis. I think it's important to consider the value add of development and at what cost for the loss of preservation in our environment and the quality of our environment. It doesn't mean there aren't good options. We've seen them in the past, but being very careful in making those choices and acting very responsibly. We do have levers within the land use code, and we will be, as a board, the board is looking to update that land use code, and I think it's important to consider what is in the code in order to properly mitigate for any potential development.
Okay, if I could do a follow-up?
Please.
Okay, apologies to you ahead of time, Ward. So the lumberyard, for instance, which will
We're all apologizing ahead of time.
which will provide a lot of affordable housing, will increase the population of Aspen considerably
Yes.
in a very short period of time. And I'm wondering if you think that kind of increase in the population can affect the character of the Upper Valley. Maybe positively, maybe
Right.
not.
Right. Yes. I believe that any influx in population is going to both positively and negatively affect or have the potential for both. So how do you design for success? What are the components that make it so that the balance falls closer towards a successful or a positive effect on the community. And is that in the trail design? Is it in a not having a stoplight or having a stoplight? Is it having better transportation services? Is it in working in collaboration city to county in order to create a better transportation hub? Is it is that dense of a facility going to work for this community? Is it the right type of density? It is going to be an experiment.
Yeah.
Do I get a rebuttal?
No. But it's great looking at you out there.
So I'm just going to read you a couple passages. We had Matt Yamashita was in town last week from Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and I'm just going to get your reaction
Okay.
and thoughts on his statement. So there's no question in what Matt's posing, but he was purported to have said a lot of places where the animals would like to be, especially their winter range, those are the developed portions of the valley. And the impact can't really be reversed. They're adapting to what we have left, which is why Colorado Parks and Wildlife is putting its weight behind habitat protection and conservation, a higher priority for the agency. So just your thoughts and reaction to Director Yamashita's statements.
I listened to him actually during that meeting, and I think he's a very thoughtful human being, and I think that he represents the organization well. Some of the development impacts are the highways and the fences that are along the highways, which is up to CDOT to have and maintain, and they put them in place not necessarily with the consideration of the county because it's their jurisdiction. And so some of the movement of the animals is impacted not just by the housing developments, but some of our transportation developments. Certainly, I understand the impetus to work with what he has in order to create safe corridors, because in part, some of the animals have already adapted to the migratory changes. Not all, as is evidenced by the accidents on 82 or just seeing them. So I actually support his position in saying right now that is their priority. He didn't say that they were closed to the idea of having safe passages. He didn't say that it's not a viable solution. He just said right now his priority is focused on parks and CPW.
Thank you.
Are you looking at me? He always does that. He stares at me till he I come up with something quickly.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I'm good.
Good. Would you like to make some closing comments?
Okay, wait, we have to ask.
Oh, how I want
I look at her as if she has a question.
Well, I know, but I
Do you
thought
have
you
a
wanted me to
question,
come up
Patty
with something
Clapper?
new.
Patricia.
So at the end of the day, what would you like to be remembered for after serving 10 months or another 12 years? Who knows?
If I'm honored enough to be selected, I would like you all to think of me as someone who worked really hard with you, someone who stepped in, learned a lot, asked good questions, brought forth interesting perspectives, and was willing to not only represent my own view, but other views that are outside of my comfort zone because it might be on somebody else's mind. I would like for you to think of me as someone who's willing to do the hard work and come prepared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. No, and so Charlie Tarver is our final applicant. But just for the folks in the room who have hung out, there will be, it sounds like Broadway play, there will be a callback later this afternoon. So your staying here is not for naught. So, Charlie, the floor is yours, and you're welcome to introduce yourself.
My name is Charlie Tarver.
Questions for Charlie?
Well, I'd like to hear him introduce himself.
My name is Charlie Tarver.
So,
And
Here we go. 84, $400. Everything's worked. Life is not that hard. I believe the goal of this board is a much more visionary and long-term leadership position than most of the questions. Everybody wants to be chief. I remember about 88, Bill Toot, I sat in some city council meetings and was interested. Sit down, shut up, and listen. I went to every meeting of every different kind of part of our community. Listened. I've sat on not boards that affected me, like the cycling club, which I founded and started, or Ride for the Past, or things like that, but things that didn't necessarily affect me personally. Anything that affected me personally, I would never speak on. I had a business on Hyman Avenue. If there was a question about they were doing something on Hyman Avenue, I would not go and opine for myself. That was not my position. I've sat on boards that mattered, big things. Like, for instance, when we tried to build light rail here, that went beyond Pekin County. It was what I learned about the whole valley. We knew how many new births there were going to be in Algebal, how many people were going to die in Carbondale. Okay, what was the likely transfer of properties in the next 20 years in the upper Crystal Valley? And that taught me a lot, just as far as numbers of what happens in the valley and how the rest of the valley affects us. I believe many of our decisions do not no longer have enough institutional knowledge. One of them that I thought of coming to here, 5750 we came up with in 2000. We basically limited growth with TDRs in 5750. We limited house size of 5750. Yes, it could go up to 15,000, which then was changed to 10,000, 93 something. But what that did was actually increase density, because instead of taking all of that development capacity and put it in one spot, in one house, which has, when you add the next 5,000 feet, it actually has less effect than putting another 5,000 foot house of development somewhere else. Things like that were never brought up, and that's what bothers me, because I sat on the Planning and Zoning Board of Aspen, I sat on the Planning and Zoning Board of the county, Historic Preservation, things like that, which I don't care about historic preservation. I care about our community. What we do is try to make this place go to hell at a slower rate than every place else. It's kind of like getting old. All I want to do is get old at a slower rate than my twin brother. We're getting more crowded. There's more cars. We want to go to hell at a slower rate than the rest of the world. And what we can do to not mess up, the reason this place has value has nothing to do with people. Well, it had to do with what's around us. The White River National, when they redid their master plan, sat on that board too. I believe in making rules that follow a principle that has a guiding light that's so far away that what happens this year or next year or 5 years doesn't matter. I believe in long-term goals, and you do that by setting a guiding principle that's far enough away that can always be seen. Even if you get temporarily sidelined one way or the other, you can eventually always find your way because you believe in principles. And that's what I think this position's about.
all right.
So there. Patty.
All right, priorities. So county has priorities, you have priorities. If you could pick one or two priorities we should focus on for the next 10 months or beyond, what would your...
I heard that question, and I believe, for instance, like the airport, 98% of it's done. You can affect 2% of it in the last little bit. We need to be working on stuff beyond that. So my priority is not the day-to-day stuff. That's easy. You open How you herd cats, and it's not hard. You open a can of tuna fish and you set it down. How you get people to see the importance of a mill levy has nothing to do with our fiscal situation right now. It's what we want the community, the valley to look like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And that is how you get things passed. Is you say, because we all moved here for that vision of the county 30 years ago, or 30 years from now. How we get there, half people think this way. We all agree on that. But the next year, we might say this way or this way. You don't talk about that. You talk about 10 years down the road. Why does this mill levy need to pass? It's not about that bridge or that road. It's about we want to move people efficiently. And because half people think the straight shot, half people think this way. But what we all agree is we want to get people in and out more efficiently. I've had the ability in one meeting, okay, I've told my neighbors, I live in the West End, that we're going to build more stuff here with the music school, the Physics Institute. And so everybody there was pissed off at me. It doesn't matter. The goal was, these are very important institutions to the bedrock of who we are. And yeah, you might hate it right now, but the reason you live here is because of that. And so it may suck that, yeah, you're going to have another car parked near your house, but the big picture is the community you want to live in has those three institutes here.
Thank you.
So I believe they're more long-term than those. That stuff's easy. I mean, and most of that stuff, instead of having to catch up, I've sat on every board that has land use issues or zoning issues. That's nothing new to catch up on. I mean, I can tell you traffic numbers in front of Algebel 6 years from now.
So the county has,
Go.
So the county has both 2030 goals around housing as well as 2050 goals around the environment.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, we're developing the comprehensive plan, hanging out in places less than salubrious, places like the Hoffman Hotel, and shopping our 2050 comprehensive plan. Two of the line items would basically break the envelope on the UGB. One would be ADUs would be used by right and administrative, and the other is that multifamily up to 10 people per household would be allowed outside the UGB, obviously with water and waste availability. So we've done a lot to contain growth and limit it to the urban growth boundaries, but there's floating ideas currently in the comprehensive plan as drafted that would change the land use patterns. So just looking for your long-term feedback.
Okay. Marcella Larson and I sat on P&Z in the late 90s, early 2000s when the urban growth boundary was dreamt up. Oh, my God. And so I'm very familiar with the idea and the principles that went into establishing that to start with. So as far as things like whether or not this would fit or that would fit, I have a good comprehensive base to start with of why we put it in to start with. Mm-hmm. So I'm not just reading the urban growth boundary legislation and going from that and trying to figure out, does this fit or not? I have also the knowledge, the institutional knowledge of why the urban growth boundary was fought for and decided and what made sense to initiate that to start with. And so the individual stuff, that's fairly easy. And so in the principle, the guiding light of more intense density towards the center of your locations has never changed. And there are exceptions to every rule.
You ready to move on? Or do you want to say something? more there?
Go
I
ahead.
sat with Charlie on P&Z for many of those years.
Oh, really?
You did?
Yeah.
Are you interested in a 10-month job, or are you thinking you'd run for the whole time?
I've sat on board since '89. In the 90s, I was married. My wife counted 32 hours a week I was spending on boards. I had a little accident in 2002. I cut back. I now can do whatever. I also have no other job. So, in the last 4 years, I've inserted myself back into the the directional governance of our community. HPC, City P&Z, County Commission. I'm not going anywhere. So yes, I've worked hard and long on those long range plans, and 99, a bunch of us sat around there, this thing called pedestrian bikeway plan. People like Hans Grauminger and Fritz Ben and I, we sat on a napkin, we wrote all these trails. These are the first ones we need to do right away. These would be good. Man, if we got lucky, these would be great. And if we won the lottery, this would be good. Kind of like seeing your kids grow up, 25 years later, ride along, you see there's this bike path on Red Butte going down the Summer Trail. And they said, man, that was in there. That's like saying if your kids had kids. You see things done that are a long way out. So I think a lot of the principles that guided us, obviously the Kinsley and those guys in the 70s, following Petaluma, with their downzoning of the county, that was the greatest growth management thing that we did. We had 6,000 houses in the East Owl Creek Valley. That was on the books. It's not there because of them. Mm-hmm. Those are things that we need to continue on. And I think that's just, I will do this, yes. I'm not going to state, because then I'd have to fill some form out.
I can see that you're not.
Yes, I was like, I'm looking for a job for the next 4 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Patty, do you have anything to add?
Do you want me to ask the question before you let him close?
Yes, please.
At the end of the day, Charlie,
Don't care.
I knew the answer. I could have probably answered.
Go outside and play. I still live life as a 9-year-old kid. At 9 years old, life is only good. It's wonderment. You like school, you like your teachers, you like your sisters, you like your parents, you like school. You don't know about girls yet. So everything is just wonderful. I still live that life. And this town is the most beautiful place in the world. And when I say beauty, yes, we have great mountains, but we have great people. We've attracted, the natural environment has brought a social environment that for the most part has respected what God or whoever did, because we certainly didn't do anything as important as what whomever did. And so to protect that, I spent my life outside. So go outside, play as me. The natural environment is very important. The social environment is drawn here because of that. And we have to tell people, we have to remind people, I know you want to do this, but the reason you moved here was because of that.
So at the end of the day, you want to be remembered
Just good.
for being a 9-year-old.
Just good. Just happy. The world needs more happy.
Thanks, Charlie.
And you can decide to find that however you want. Just make the world a better place.
Charlie, the outro is all yours. Final comments.
Sit down, shut up, listen, and learn. Bill Toot said that to me. Bill Story right beside him. Those guys cared about our community quite a bit. That's who I grew up emulating as far as my social responsibility. When I need nothing, I want nothing except this community to continue being the place that I fell in love with, that I think is special. Not just for me, but for the world. The best of the best have always wanted to come here because of what we have. And it's nothing that we built. It's what we didn't screw up. Our goal is to go to hell at a slower rate than the rest of the world. And we're doing a very good job, but we need to keep doing that.
I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you very much.
Watch this. Dude, look at that. Come on. That's skill. Thank you.
Thank you. Grassroots, we're going to take a 15-minute break.
Hold on.
Can I, before they leave, can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
It's to the group in general. I want to thank everybody. Wait, Charlie has something to
Because
finish.
the Olympics is a 360 still finish.
Then you flip over the table. I want to thank everybody. I am very impressed at the turnout, the numbers, the comments, the homework. This is really amazing that the group showed up and wants to be involved in county government. And I really cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. So, for those who are not appointed to Kelly's seat, we're going to find another place for you guys. I've made a list over here. Don't worry, we're not letting you go far. Scott's looking at his watch. Where am I going next?
So, we good?
Are we
So-
going to do a callback?
So, no, so, and just, sorry, for the,
Are we doing a callback?
There's a couple of questions.
So
I'd like to
for-
ask if
for the
other
ru-
people, but not everybody.
for the room, it's a completely public process, so there is no exec time or conferring outside of this room. We will take a break for 13 minutes. We'll be back at 3:50, so a little bit early, and there will be some callbacks of some of the applicants at that time. So thank you so much, Grassroots. We'll see you at 3:50.
350, okay.
Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, February 17th. This is the regular work session of the Board of County Commissioners. We are in the third act of the District 2 Commissioner applicant interviews. In brief discussions with my colleagues, we looked at the subjects that we covered in the first two rounds of interviews, the 9 interviews that we conducted earlier today, and discussed that we had some gaps in the questions. We were very city-centric. Clearly, this is a District 2 appointment, but there are other avenues and other aspects of the county that we would like your input on. So in the past year, the county and Eagle County and AVLT purchased Three Meadows Ranch, 4,200 acres in Eagle County. The Board of County Commissioners, both from Pitkin and Eagle, met there about 6 months ago, and as we stood in a circle and thought about what was around us as the elks were bugling, unanimously every commissioner on the site visit said, we want to do nothing with this land. We want the 4,200 acres to remain with a caretaker, a husband and wife, to take care of the land as the land we found it. We realize over the past year, 84% of the land that surrounds us is public lands. The Pitkin County Board of County Commissioners rezoned 84% of the county to RSG, Resource Government Zoning, in order to protect that land in perpetuity from either further extraction or from potential housing development. And third, over the past year, this board has worked both in Grand Junction and in DC in order to take a property known as Snowmass Falls and return what was basically an inholding into wilderness. And so that's through the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So that's sort of the intro for you. In quick discussions with the commissioners, we felt that the 4 subjects we didn't touch on in our interviews this morning and this afternoon were conservation, wildlife habitat, we touched on briefly, but we'd like to speak on more. The role of agriculture in the valley. Again, one of the beautiful things, if you haven't visited Two Roots Farms, Two Roots cultivates vegetables, has interns year-round working hoop houses and greenhouses, and it's both a Pitkin County affordable lease for a young farmer, and it's Pitkin County water And that in turn then becomes, for example, a senior CSA, and we feed senior citizen families through that agriculture, through CSAs, through farm markets, et cetera. And finally, we feel we really didn't touch on the Crystal. We focus a lot of our conversations about Highway 82, and we really didn't touch on the Crystal River Valley. And so we're all connected. And at this board table, we each represent roughly an equal population, and those populations have diverse needs, whether that's Snowmass or the Crystal or Woody Creek. And so I want to turn over to Commissioner Jacober, and she is going to pose a couple questions to you. There are 9 of you. We hope Ted is going to rejoin us. We're reaching out to him. Sorry,
Tom.
Tom is going to rejoin us, sorry. And that we have everyone in the room. There'll be an opportunity for each of you to speak, roughly 3 minutes, to respond. I will not pull out a timer. If you want. Sorry, the if you want is if this is something that you don't wish to speak on.
I think your thing is off.
Don't tell him his mic not's on, because he'll repeat it all.
It was off. I just turned
I
it
was like, you want me to repeat that?
off. No, absolutely not. Carry on.
So,
Thank you.
if you would like, as an applicant, you are welcome to join. If you want to, remain in your seat, there's no obligation. But it's really, we felt as a board there were a few subjects we didn't touch on, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Jacober for her questions.
Well, first I'm going to tell you a really embarrassing story about myself. I think I told it to Ted already. So when my son asked me if I wanted to run for commissioner, because he'd been asked and he didn't want to, I said yes. And so he brought me up to his house and we had a long discussion about, well, how are you going to run? What's it going to look like? So I told him about the things that really have meaning to me. And it was conservation of lands, agriculture, what's going to happen to development in the Crystal Valley, and those kind of things. And so we talked for a while, and then he said, Mom, what about the people? So I'm just saying that to let you know that it's been a really good learning experience for me to think about the people and not just the wildlife and the lands. And you guys did an amazing job tonight talking about the people of the Upper Valley. And so I live in the Crystal Valley. And it's very different over there, and it's very different up the frying pan as well, and slightly different in Emma. It's not all Upper Valley. So what I would like to say to you guys is I didn't hear any references to agriculture at all in the Valley and the role of agriculture in the Valley. Nothing about wild and scenic Crystal River, or very little about preserving wildlife habitat and perhaps how agriculture can assist with these kinds of things. And just one more little thing, and that is that I love open space and trails. I think it's the most amazing tax-generated organization I've ever even heard of. But sometimes I kind of get a little bit worried about the emphasis on trails rather than open space. There is a certain amount that they have to spend on trails. I understand that, but open space for itself. So what I'd like to ask you guys is, could you, if you want to, come up and talk for 2 or 3 minutes about those topics, how they intertwine or don't, or just pick one of them, so that I can sort of get a sense of the county as a whole from each of you. Do you need more explanation, or ready to roll? Okay.
And it's first come, first serve. I won't call on you. Just try to limit your comments around 3 minutes.
Don't be shy.
Oh, shy is not my problem. Well, great points. I would draw attention to my experience working with Referendum 2 during the entrance to Aspen debate, and how much I tried to put the Upper Valley concerns, some of my own personal concerns, a lot of the Aspen-centric concerns behind that conversation for the benefit of the entire county, and how improved transportation infrastructure, while it may be happening in the Upper Valley, is really meant to improve the quality of life and to provide more access and opportunity to the greater community that we're part of. So I would speak to that first. And not to mention that a lot of my Aspen is now part of the Mid and Lower Valley. I mean, We have friends and family who live in Carbondale. My godson lives in Basalt. I have a coworker who works with youth who lives and commutes from Redstone every day. So I'm well aware of how broad and sometimes exclusive, but how inclusive our community really is. In terms of conservation, I love the idea of funds and buybacks and the work that you've done with the Aspen Valley Land Trust and buying back the Snowmass Wilderness to complete that. I think that there's more room for that. I think the county can explore more ways to leverage funding and purchase of property, including exploring ideas like community land trusts, where we can maybe stand up local organizations who are dedicated to this project to continue to engage the constituency that also shares these values, like many of our fellow applicants today have mentioned, and provide that kind of sense of agency and appropriate support that gives them the feeling like, okay, this is something we're going to do. We're going to fund community buybacks of residential, commercial, even conservation-based land. In terms of wildlife, I'm a member of the Roaring Fork Safe Passages advocacy team. I should probably mention that. And I do see wildlife as an issue, but I also fully recognize that, you know, like Matthew said, that there are certain limitations to what an organization like that can do, and that there are maybe priority balances that we need to think about when it comes to, do we spend $4 million on an overpass, or do we protect existing wildlife, calving, watersheds, all of those things. Like I said, my background's in environmental policy. You're looking at someone who was born and raised in these mountains and with these waters, and so it resonates to me that we didn't talk more about the greater environment and how important it is, how much of an asset it is. I think, and I'm trying to pay attention to time here, I wrote a letter to the editor, or an opinion piece, a couple months ago that was titled "Luxury's Not the Point." And the premise was that there were people in our community who were saying that, oh, we're so lucky to be part of this community because look at this rec center that we have, and look at all these services, and look at, I mean, even at the county level, look at all of these amazing health benefits and all of this amazing infrastructure that we have. But I think that argument is kind of looking at things backwards. We moved here for that. That existed before us. The natural environment, the watersheds, the wildlife are part of the reason that we came here in the first place. And over all of these generations, we've done our best to protect them by taxing ourselves, by working collaboratively, by building regional partnerships. And I think that can continue. In terms of agriculture, I grew up with Ed and Vardy, who runs the Farm Collaborative. I helped him. I think Patty remembers in one of the first public hearings. I
actually created his original board for
That's right.
Aspen Tree.
So, I mean, I love what he's doing with low to no cost loans for farmers in the region. I also love what he's doing with education. I think that there's more opportunity for this, for us to use modern technology to do site analysis and figure out where we can put more farms, where we can support more community farming, where we can support more private development of localized agricultural development. And then finally, to the Crystal, it's not my backyard. And so I won't speak to it like it is. But I love soaking in those rivers. And I love the mountains, the rivers, and the wildlife that surround it. And I fully can understand how someone would feel marginalized being part of that community and watching a meeting like this. I think that feeling of marginalization and the loss of belonging is a big reason why we're here right now. We want to have a community where everyone feels included and part of the decision. We want to have a county where even the most widespread margins are part of the important priority lists that we maintain. So I would look to protect as much as we could of the Crystal Valley while working with regional and local partners like the town of Carbondale to make sure that we're doing it in a way that benefits all of the stakeholders involved.
Great. Thank you, Scott.
That's it.
Tried to build the largest mass transit system in the valley possible. It was light rail. It was end of the 90s. We learned about all the other strange valleys, the Crystal, what goes on in Emma, what happens in East Cypress Creek. That's where we learned about those sections and working with those caucuses. So I'm somewhat familiar with them to start with. I believe that transportation, 82 has rules. The secondary roads and the feeder systems, we need to make rules for them. I disagree with room majorities. Often we'll sit in here and everybody will tell you, oh, traffic's terrible. Well, guess what? Since 93, when we said this is the number of cars that's going to come over the Castle Creek Bridge, it's been below that. So when 10 people in the room say traffic is worse, somebody needs to say, no, it's not. There's one person that counts the traffic. It may be worse from 7:45 to 8:15. Then say that. We need to push back against non-honest statements and room majorities. When we see a bunch of deer dying on the side of the road, the big thing is, what about deer in the whole county? Because that's the same as a room majority. When you have 12 people in here telling you, don't build there, don't build there, you feel that everybody doesn't want you to build there. Well, no, 12 people, you represent 6,000 or 20,000, or whether you're city or county. And that's what's really important also with a lot of wildlife stuff. I spent my life in the woods and the outside. I climbed, I skied. My only job, working in a Ute Mountaineer type shop, the backpacker, then the Ute Mountaineer, then the hub. That's bikes, skis, and tents. Tells you who I am. I ran a store that used less people every year as we did more business. That's efficiency. There's plenty of room for everything if we do it efficiently. For instance, when we look at square footage of a house, a 15,000 square
Charlie, I'm going to stop you for a second. I apologize.
Okay.
But the question posed to each of the applicants was really about conservation, agriculture,
I understand.
open space.
I understand. I think
How did that?
okay. Transportation affects all of that. It affects our growth patterns. The car is the worst thing that ever happened to this country because it allowed sprawl. A very finite transportation system directs growth and protects agriculture. Okay, the question is, if you build more let's say the increased housing at ABC, what does that do to bring those people into town? The increase in population. Well, does it increase jobs? If it doesn't increase jobs, then the same 3 people who live there used to live in Carbondale. So they still spend their wake hours here, but they no longer have a transportation deficit on our community, which means they don't impact agricultural areas because a sprawl is not needed. The enemy of agriculture is sprawl. The benefit, the savior of agricultural space and open space is density. Get what you want and what the community wants in a small little box. It saves the rest. And it's being able to convince people that if you want Woody Creek to have 3 houses on these 400 acres, you need to have 12 houses right here instead of 4. So just the not increased growth, but directed growth. That's why we did the urban growth boundary in the late 90s. That's why we did rural and remote. That's why we did things that directed density to where it belongs or where we can best accommodate it so it has the least negative impact. And that to me, when you say, how do you save agriculture, it has to do with land use patterns of growth that are correct. You can't have agricultural property not being attacked unless you have another place for it to go that's more correctly taken care of. So I see those as the same thing.
All right. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, guys.
Be brave.
Welcome back.
Hi again. It's good to be back. And I'm really glad that you circled back to this topic because I think it's so vitally important to the future of how we make decisions and how we guide policy. I think for me, our economy is based on our natural environment. And so much of why this town thrives is because of all the natural beauty, because of our open spaces, because of our trails and our just amazing space that is not the built environment. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind because it takes such a delicate balance to manage growth and also manage sustainability. And keeping in mind open space plus agriculture plus trails plus all of the factors that we love about our natural environment here in the valley, coupled with we want to grow and we want to have a thriving community and a great business environment. It's a very fine line. And I think navigating that with a very strong context on sustainability and protecting these places is what's going to make sure that we keep the magic of this county intact. I think something that was really well said in the Vision 2050 was about how our up valley decisions impact and have down valley consequences. And I think they're so interconnected based on where people are moving, how people interact with it. And as you see, even like after COVID, how so many of the trails up here in Aspen got jam-packed with people. You can go down valley and have a lot more access to a lot more nature, and being mindful of how those natural environments kind of play off of each other and connect with each other, I think is really important. Another thing regarding agriculture is one of the foundations of how this community started. And back when this was a potato community and, you know, had these big ranches that were really thriving economies in and of themselves, I think it's really important to recognize those roots and get back to them. And I think agriculture might not have the same role in the future, where we are a agricultural production facility in Colorado, but I think we still have these really great resources where agriculture can still be a vibrant economic activity and also one of education. I think it's a space where we can really empower the youth to be more connected to their space, be more connected to this valley, be more connected to the things that really drive us as humans. And agriculture, I think, has a really powerful position to do that. It also has a powerful position to keep us healthier and knowing where our food comes from and knowing where kind of our energy supplies are coming from, and, you know, getting a good combination of using agriculture both as a financial engine but also as an educational one, I think is something that this valley can really strive towards and really help promote the agricultural pieces that we already have in place. One, we need to protect them. And two, we need to see in ways where we can expand that, where it's not, where it's done in a sustainable way. We have still an agricultural base that we can draw off of well into the future, that our, you know, kids of today can grow up in this valley and be proud of the place that they're coming from and the things that they're learning, and the, you know, have a sense of connection with the land around us. Because some of the best advocates for this valley are not talking about like the great restaurants and the great economic things. They're talking about how beautiful it is. They're talking about this wonderful hike that they did with their family. They're talking about the skiing. They're talking about the mountain biking trails. They're talking about just having open landscape, North Star Preserve, things like that that are just gorgeous. And the Crystal Valley is another one where people go to see it because of how beautiful it is, not because there's great stores. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind as we talk about growth and as we talk about transportation and all of these factors that we brought up earlier in the session today. Keeping in mind the sustainability piece, I think, is really, really critical for the future.
All right, thank you, Max.
Thanks, Mayor.
I'm going to start timing people. I know it was a big topic and there's a lot to say, but I'm going to turn on my timer at 3 minutes so that you guys aren't here at 7 o'clock tonight listening.
I talk quick, so hopefully I'll be able to catch up sometime. My thoughts are, I actually parrot a lot of Max's thoughts on the subject, that there's a fine line between growth and conservation, especially when we look at the agriculture in, I want to say Aspen specifically because that's what I'm going to talk to rather than the county. My brother actually works in City of Aspen Water Utilities, and he says that alfalfa farming is actually one of the biggest water consumers throughout the city. And I think that we should not necessarily, like, I'm not saying that we necessarily have to cut back on alfalfa farming. I'm saying that we should look at it with a closer lens of how much of this is for the growth of our county and our agriculture versus how much of the alfalfa farming is for capital growth directly, like selling the product and the goods. I also think that what Max was saying about there's a lot of opportunities for education is very true, because I know at least when I was in high school, in Aspen High School, they had a farm to table like ex-ed experience. But I think as ex-ed experiences are only like 1 week at the beginning of the year, I think that they, especially now with the lack of state funding, the high schools should try to get together with like local farmers to try to teach some electives with farming, because I think Aspen especially, I grew up in California, so we had a strong FFA, and I didn't really see that going to high school here. I think we could grow upon that, and it would be a good way for, because I think, I want to say like to spread the word of agriculture, which is kind of silly to say as it's the world's oldest like profession, but I do think that a lot of children are losing, like touching dirt. They just got to get out there, touch some pigs. That's what I'm thinking. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Andorra.
Okay. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Could probably break this up into 2 sections. I do think there's great opportunity, the agriculture focus in the Valley, looking at whether it's Harper at Two Roots or Alyssa at Marigold, who both were trained locally too, doing CSAs, of which my wife and I get. It's like a wonderful way to be connected to the Valley food sources. Local restaurants love it. The education side is very important, like they're doing at the Farm Collaborative at Cozy Point. So I think to have all the open space and not make use of it in this way, if there is an opportunity to do so, is kind of a missed opportunity. So it also kind of fits with the Vision 2050 plans of just kind of healthy community, people just having a connection to their natural world rather than just keeping it open space. Similarly, I think on trails and bike trails versus wilderness, I do think maybe it's an important time to ask ourselves if we're putting trails into too many places, they're having too many effects on the wildlife. I almost wonder if you could create something that's kind of like an urban growth boundary for trail systems, as in like preserve certain areas that cannot have any trails, because it does seem like the trail building community, they do an amazing job. They're always looking for their next place to break up a wilderness zone, with a wonderful new mountain bike trail. And I love to mountain bike, but I do think we have a great trail system here. And maybe it's time to kind of put some areas, maybe off limits to trails in the interest of wildlife. And then say, much like we do with the urban growth boundary, maybe say that we have to keep our trails limited to this zone and that zone and just continue to build out. Not unlike a ski area. Like we don't let ski areas just expand to every single place. They're where they are, and we're not doing new ones. So I might suggest those 2, ideas just as something to put forth moving forward with regard to ag and trails.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted.
Sure.
Hello. Hello. All right, so
First of all, I love the idea of the purchasing with other counties. We have such a, square-shaped county that, of course, our natural boundaries are really important, right? On the Crystal River Valley, I know, Francie, you and I talked a little bit about this. We've had a cabin up in the Raggeds, an off-grid cabin, for many years, and spend a lot of time going back and forth. And somebody said there were no stores in Redstone, but let me tell you, Propaganda Pie, talk about another pizza place. Although we do, I actually like thin crust better, but that's another story. So, it's a beautiful valley, and I've spent a lot of time up there. For me, it's not just about the trails that exist, although I would love to hear your view on the trail that's going to go up to McClure Pass, what your feelings are about that. It's not just about the trails, but the view from the trails, and that's what the open space is, right? When we're up in the raggeds or, up around Marble, it's not about what it looks like underneath your feet. That's, well, if you don't look a little bit, you do fall. But it is about what you are viewing and what you're seeing. And I think that's what makes that is what helps give us our sense of place. The sense of place that I was talking about before is not just about 82. You do know when you enter Picken County, though, you can tell. But it is about the entire county. And then as far as ag goes, I'm a huge fan of all the small farms, collective CSAs, especially as farming becomes more and more industrialized. There is an opportunity, an economic opportunity for smaller producers to survive and thrive. Obviously, different price points than the Monsanto-sponsored huge farms. We do need to address water issues, use it or lose it. So I wouldn't want us to see loss of the water rights that we have in the ag world too. So I think all of that, you're right. We should have been able to talk about all that. 15 minutes is very short. So thank you for the work in saving some of these public land that are now public lands, private lands to public. I think it's an important thing, as well as work with other counties.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
Hello. Thank you. Happy to be back up here. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you so much for access to public lands. The access that you guys have ensured through conservation easements, through partnerships with other counties, with Aspen Valley Land Trust, and with willing landowners. The ability to work with people in order to preserve this access is pivotal. One of the tools that you have used that I'm quite impressed with is this conservation, or the use of conservation easements, as it allows private land owners to keep ranching possible. It is leaving the ownership with the private landowners and allowing the ranching and the agricultural use. And it's more than just the CSAs. It's cattle, it's crops. It is also an important part of our greenhouse gas emissions, capturing of greenhouse gas emissions. It's also part of our environmental health and cycle is having these lands open and available. It's part of our filtration process of our waters. And the water use that is on some of these lands, especially in the Crystal River Valley, it filters back down into the watershed and helps further on. It is not just a loss to the system. The water rights in the Crystal are really important. And some things that I understand are of particular concern could be reservoir potentials. And I think it's important to pay attention. I am really excited about having a safe trail along the Crystal. I personally spent a lot of time as a youth up in the Avalanche Creek area, camping and hiking, and before I had an automobile, biking up there was a little scary. And so I'm quite excited that you guys have worked collectively with private land owners, with Aspen Valley Land Trust, with the Open Space and Trails to make this a potential or an opportunity. So thank you very much. And yes.
Thank you, Emily.
Probably be a little bit quicker than the rest. But one thing I didn't tell you, I grew up in Connecticut and my parents were huge gardeners. And every year we'd plant in the fall, we'd harvest in the summer, we'd harvest in the fall again. Lots of weeding. And we did not buy vegetables at all from the grocery store. We ate off the land. And that was really eye-opening. The hard work, the resilience, just my father being so proud of what he grew, and any visitor, we'd go down and he'd show his produce, or we'd be bringing bags of produce to our neighbors. There's a huge importance of unprocessed food, that it's eating unprocessed food is increasingly important. Conservation protects, our spiritual and economic assets. And I think ag is a form of conservation. So it would be really neat if we even had a grocery store just featuring our local producers. The Crystal River should maintain the character of it being rural and not having second home ownership down there. And I truly believe that we need to be listening to those that live in the Crystal River as well and their input. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. I did have a store, by the way, that had only our meat and vegetables and stuff. Mm-hmm.
They are looking at one in the old city market in Carbondale.
See, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so Mr. Mason, you're in the Roaring Fork room. Good to see you.
You figured that out.
Did you understand the questions?
No, I was going to ask you if you could repeat it, although I have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, well, I had just noticed that nobody had mentioned anything about agriculture in the first round of interviews. And there was very little discussion of the conservation of open lands and wildlife habitat, and also that the conversation was very up valley centric, and the county is much bigger than that. So I had encouraged people to come up and talk about, the Crystal Valley or the frying pan and agriculture, and just your thoughts in general about open space. And
Yeah. So I get the agricultural. I've heard that. My feeling on the agricultural aspect of things is I think the setup as we've got it now, using ranches for local produce, doing what they can. I mean, I think it works now. You probably know more than I do. When I think ahead, I think more like the 2050, 2075. What's going to happen when, I'll just throw his name, when Tom Clark's sons get the ranch and they don't want to do what he did, or with any ranch, how do we prevent the kids from selling it and having it broken up into lots? Do we want to? I mean, I think it depends on the piece of land. But getting back to what I was harping on the last time is figuring out the answer to that, I think, means sitting down with the ranchers and the farmers and saying, look, you love what you're doing, your kids love what you're doing, and we love it the way it's set up now. But in 50 years, when your grandchildren aren't so hip on it or whatever and they want to sell it, how are we going to prevent that from happening? And like many of these things, I don't know what the answer is really, except that losing the ranches and the farms bit by bit would impact everything that everyone's been saying about coming here. I think keeping our growth in the boundaries of Aspen, in the boundaries of Basalt, within the urban boundaries is critical. And if we go outside the boundaries, that's where discussion needs to happen, I think. Deep discussion. There's plenty of room, I think, within the boundaries of all of the community, all of the municipalities in the valley. So I think you can get your growth and maintain the open space as long as you work it out with everyone involved, I think. It's like I was saying with the billionaires before. They're the ones who are really making the call on this. The ranchers and the farmers are really the ones making the ultimate call. So how do we make it so that the call is what we want them to do? A couple other things I'll touch on. The Crystal Valley. I think the trail going up the Crystal Valley over to Crested Buttes probably the biggest thing for those who live past the BRB, because that's where it's tight. I think humans have a place in the world. And I think a trail over to the Butte is a great idea. I'd love to see it happen. I think done right, it will be fine. But I don't think that it's a carte blanche to put trails everywhere. I think that's a big one. But say, for instance, the Three Meadows Ranch. I mean, I actually knew the owners. I've been up on the Three Meadows Ranch quite a bit. Lovely piece of property. I'm not sure we should put trails there. I don't know. I'm kind of with Ted on that. But it needs to be discussed, because if we have the open space and people want to go enjoy it, but they can't, well, that's an issue. And I lived up the Frying Pan for 20 years, and, you're right on the border of Pitkin and Eagle there. But I always felt that the Frying Pan was listened to by Pitkin County as things developed up there. But I think, the growth up at the top end of the frying pan, which is in Eagle County, controlling that's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
Wrong county. Probably getting on a same page with the other counties on this is a good way to go. I don't know if that answers
That's
what
good.
you
Thank
were
you,
looking
Tom.
for.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Thanks for coming back.
My pleasure.
So I'd like to turn it over to the interim county manager, Kara Silbernacle, to tell us where we're going from here, just in terms of getting everyone on the same page in terms of process.
Can I jump in real quick on the Crystal? There is probably one of the best sustainable agriculture operations in this valley on the Crystal River, up 133 at Sunfire Ranch, and it's called Seed Peace. And so if anybody really wants to learn about it, they do volunteers days on Saturdays to keep the farm going, since the sustainable farmer he took his life a year ago. So we're keeping it going. So if anybody would like to volunteer, it's hard work. Francie knows farming is hard work. You get dirty, you learn a lot about the land. It's a great opportunity. Please contact me and I'll get you on the list of volunteer days. It's really fun. The people up there are great. And you get to enjoy the beauty of the Crystal River Valley and see how the water does stay on the land. And it's an amazing opportunity. And you can look right over at Francie's house across the river.
That's right.
And across the roadway and wave or bring her down and she can join us on the farm. So anybody who's interested, please give me a call. You know how to find me and I'll get you on the list of volunteers.
I guess to square the circle on that comment, to Tom's point, the seed piece is actually at Sunfire Ranch.
It's Sunfire Ranch. It's a 501c3 and they have great garlic.
And one of the joys of Sunfire is it's actually one of the few, not few, but it's the only centennial ranch in Pitkin County.
Which is owned by the same family for 100 years?
Yeah. So it's the only designation. And we pushed, when we did the Albany designation, past Sunlight, or not past Sunlight. We asked the Albany family to come back in. With the Centennial Ranch designation as well. It's been in the family for over 100 years. So we're hoping that is the second Centennial Ranch in Pitkin County. So now over to the interim county manager.
Thank you.
Sure. So where we are headed, the board will reconvene in a special meeting on Thursday, February 26th at 10 a.m. That will be the first reading of the resolution for appointing the vacancy for District 2. And at that point, the board will discuss which person they would like to put in that. I will share that for that resolution. It will be a blank name because the discussion will happen on the 26th. Let me rephrase that. It will not be a blank name. The name will be blank. No one has a blank name. And the board will accept public comment at that point. And then the second reading will be on Tuesday, March 3rd at 10 a.m. With a public hearing. And then we have set for the oath of office to be at the courthouse steps at noon on the 3rd, with the new commissioner ideally being seated and joining the work session for Tuesday, March 3rd.
But the public comment is just for not the candidates, but for anybody who wants to talk about the candidates, right? They're not going to come up and
Correct.
talk again.
Yeah. It's up to the board chair, but we have left it as public comment for anyone to speak.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kara.
We're
And
gonna
I will
move-
do my best to get back here. If not, we'll figure something out.
We're going to move on our agenda and review the future. So this is the soothsayer portion of the afternoon.
Thank you guys again. You guys have been great. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, it's printed material. And sorry, and we should say thank you,
Thank you,
for spending the day.
everyone, so much.
And if you didn't hear it from the board table, we enjoyed the energy in the room. So I think that goes from all the commissioners. So really appreciate it and appreciate your time
The
and
camaraderie
your
in
interest.
the room was
Yeah.
You guys are
fantastic.
great.
The fact that you all are friends.
All right. And we want to keep this, Francie, we need to stress.
Garfield County is having a hearing on that new development. That's kind of big. 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock for public comment at CMC.
Thanks.
The one up on the top?
No, Harvest, the one that's right on the highway.
Oh, where Bear Ranch used to be.
Thank you. Thank you. No, you have to return it now. No.
Still never came.
Yeah.
And Francie, we want to continue the camaraderie on the 26th when we're getting down to the
Thank you.
nitty gritty.
Thank you.
So what?
Thank you.
The 26th, we want to continue this camaraderie.
That's really great. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And grassroots, we're going to try to continue and go into review of future sessions, but we just lost our interim county manager.
She's coming back. She's just talking with Rob about something.
Hey, grassroots, is it okay? We'll take 5.
Let's just bring it.
We're ahead of schedule, so. Good afternoon. This is the Board of County Commissioners work session. It is Tuesday, February 17th. We are slightly ahead of schedule, 4:42 p.m., and we are on future agendas. And just having wrapped up the District 2 Commissioner applicant interviews, all 9 of them. So questions, additions, deletions to future agendas.
I've never heard it. Questions, deletions, additions. I just still have the remaining question, if you don't mind if I ask.
Please.
What in the heck did we find out what the youth advisory?
Can you just
Team
give us what
is-
day it is as well?
It's on Tuesday, St. Patrick's Day, the 17th of March. It's a 90-minute presentation, and I have no idea what it is.
Yes, we did find out. So, and they are happy to go down to 60 minutes. So what it is this, and I'm reading directly here. It's a coalition of youth that's a photo voice project that they that youth brought together to highlight substance abuse and mental health issues. And so they've done a photo voice project that they wanted to bring forward, and they'll have the whole coalition and share their project with the board. And so we have asked them if they needed the full 90 minutes, and they're happy to condense down to the time that the board is able to. It's the Healthy Futures Coalition.
Healthy Future.
I've never heard of them. I don't know who put it on the agenda,
No, I haven't, but I'm interested to hear.
but 90
from them.
minutes seemed like a lot of time.
Yeah, too long. Did you remember?
It's and I can clarify. It's a youth advisory team, and it's a group of 12 Aspen middle and high school students who work on educating harm reduction and substance misuse in the Aspen community. And so they came forward through our public health team and wanted to share their project with the board. And
Okay.
so they do not need the full 90 minutes, and they're happy to work with whatever time that you all are willing to give. So we can go down to 45 minutes or.
I just 90 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, I'd love to support that by listening to them and seeing what they have to say and stuff, though. It's great that they put something together. Is it current high school kids, or is it a whole?
Middle and high school student
Middle and high school.
representatives.
I wouldn't mind cutting it back to 45 to an hour. What do you
Yeah,
think, Jeffrey?
45 to an hour.
Okay.
But thank you for the effort. It just seemed, because you didn't know, we didn't know, the chairman didn't know. Somebody put it on the agenda and we didn't even know about it.
Yep. So we will cut it back to 45 minutes.
Can I ask you a quick question? I turned back in the sheet of paper that they gave us at the this morning that Ashley gave us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what the projected cost for the horizontal work is overall?
We have budgeted between 2026 and 2027. I don't know if this is the number. 15.6 or
Oh, okay.
15.8
Thank
million.
you.
Yeah. Over 2026 and 2027.
And the answer to the public's question, which is that was for Phillips Mobile Home.
Yes.
horizontal work, which is infrastructure, which
Thank
is
you.
water and waste.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else on future agendas?
I do have one other, unless there's others from the board. I will share, I'm trying to get there, apologies, for March 3rd. We do have an update from the airport, 90 minutes. That is also the same day as the task force meetings, which start at 2. So staff is looking to actually just make this an hour because we need to get over to the library for the task force meetings instead of the 90 minutes. And then would like to put some time on that date to talk about the retreat agenda on the 3rd as well.
So down to 60 and then add 30 for retreat.
Yep.
Perfect.
Does anybody have any ideas what we're going to talk about at the retreat?
30 minutes to talk about the retreat?
I don't know if we need 30 minutes,
No.
but we needed some time on the agenda to talk through some ideas.
I just request we don't talk about housing, transportation, childcare. Can we talk about something new that we can actually get done? That would be terrific. We can talk about it.
Airport,
She's trying to leave a legacy.
healthy community.
Yeah, what am I going to remember for not wanting another retreat that we talk about the same things we've been talking about?
Yeah.
Any other additions or deletions to future agendas?
Those were the only items.
Excellent. We're moving on to board open discussion. Any open discussion items?
Again, I talked to Kara earlier. The 25th is my travel date coming back from DC. The special meeting is the 26th at 10 between weather issues that have been happening around the country. Hopefully I'll get out of DC in time. My flight schedule is better than I thought. I should be back in Eagle by like 3 in the afternoon. I thought it was going to be like 9 at night, which would be really iffy. So if I get a glitch because of planes not getting to O'Hare to bring me to Eagle, I will let Kara know and I'll figure out how to Zoom in from Chicago or someplace.
We could also just call in and we could prop your phone up.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
But my goal is to get back here in time for
That'd be great.
the special meeting.
Get your photo on a popsicle stick if we have to.
Yeah. Yeah. At the gift shop in Chicago at O'Hare. And hopefully we did need to remind Greg to watch this meeting today because I want to make sure that he had the opportunity because I thought the interviews were awesome.
He will.
Yeah, and if people have not seen, Kara wrote a 10-page memo that included the spirit of Mr. Peacock in it as well, but it was given to each of the applicants, and it was 10 pages. It was an excellent overview.
You wrote?
I mean, I'm really good at copying and pasting and revising.
It's pretty wonderful. It was a really nice intro to folks
Did you go to one?
applying. No, I asked for what she shared, so I knew what the applicants had seen.
I'm happy to share it with all of you if you'd like.
Yeah, I think it's worth sharing with the board. I think it was a wonderful overview. So I appreciate that you brought in other parts and elements from the organization.
And there's a letter we're supposed to review that's supposed to accompany the survey, was that? We just got something from Allison.
Oh, you do have, I believe Allison has shared a draft letter, press release letter.
Yeah, I thought it was actually good. I was fine
and
with it.
survey that the
They
board
send
is
it in
sending out.
formats that I can't
You can't open the
open.
questions. But the letter was
Oh.
good, but you can't open the questions.
Okay.
It shows blue, but it actually is not a link.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't even
I'll
get
have
the letter.
all of them send it to you in a
I don't do
PDF.
Google stuff. I do Word or PDFs, and they always send me.
You don't do the drive.
No.
Well, it was a good letter, I thought. Her writing is always good.
Okay, then I'm just going to take Francie's literary educational word for it. Rather than get
And
frustrated with trying to open it on a system I can't
And
open.
approve Allison's
Yeah.
letter.
Yeah.
Did you like it, Jeffrey?
I do.
Okay, then we're good.
Yeah, and the only other open discussion item that I have, there was a request by Patty to draft a letter for the Wildfire Resiliency Code Board. I drafted that with Abby and circulated that to Suzanne and to Jeff Erickson. So, and I sent it to Patty. I'm happy to send it to Francie.
Abby Cheney?
Abby Cheney, yeah. So she was my muse, or I was her muse in drafting that letter. And the goal is for that letter to appear in a periodical around the time of the first reading, which is next week.
It's just mostly so the public knows what we're doing, so they don't go to get a building permit and find out we have a new code and it's going to cost them $1 bazillion and they're not going to be able to build their 2,500 square foot home.
What was the letter that we got this morning that goes to our delegation? It was about something in the White River National Forest.
I didn't
No?
get it.
What? It was sitting on our desk. Where did I put it? Okay, I'm losing my mind. I didn't make this up.
Did you get one, Jeffrey?
Not that I know of.
You guys didn't get it, really?
Nancy's making it up. Oh, that was from 2 years ago, Francie. It was still sitting on your desk.
No, it was on my table already.
Oh, on your table, on your brown table over there. Not, it was on the white table first.
Oh, come on. I did not make this up. Oh, here it is. Okay. Aspen Mountain Mining Corporation.
No, that's what I just gave you about the meeting we're having tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking about. What is this?
Yeah, I told you earlier in the stairs. That shows you how much you listen to me.
No, I guess I don't.
This is a. I'll tell you after we get out of this meeting because
Okay.
it's not public at this point.
Okay.
Any other
I
open
do
discussion
just
items?
have one, and I probably should have said it during future agendas. So, I've been working with the city and the fire district and emergency management, and the city is requesting kind of a coordinated wildfire season situational update to city council on March 16th. That will include an update from emergency management, fire district, and Angie, I can't think of
Davlin,
what's the organization she's
Roaring Fork Wildfire
Thank you.
Collaborative.
It was-
Angie Davlin.
Thank you. Yes, from the Wildfire Collaborative, and was talking about putting a similar update on the board's agenda in middle of March if the board is interested in a wildfire kind of situational
Do it at
update.
our retreat.
Maybe it could be part of the.
No, I think it should be done in the public
Yeah.
setting, in a broadcasted public setting.
So
Ask Ellen. Our retreats are public.
What's that?
Just ask Ellen. Our retreats are public.
They are public, especially when there's food.
So we'll work on whether it's right after. I don't know. I haven't looked at the March 17th agenda if we've got time and can get all the players. So we'll try and get it close in coordination
That's when we
with
have
the
the
city council.
90-minute youth advisory team.
That's true. That's true. So we'll look on adding that to a future agenda as well.
Excellent. Any other open discussion items?
So I was contacted by Francie Connor from the Department of Transportation, who's now in his new position, wanting an update, wanted to meet with me when I'm in DC. I just heard back from him. He's going to be speaking at the conference on Sunday, and he said when he's done speaking, he and I can step outside or go have a cup of coffee, which I don't drink, so we'll figure something out. And I'm going to just give him an update on where we are with airport funding and the build grant.
Wonderful.
He's really nice, and I thought that was really exceptional that he reached out to me knowing I was going to be in DC. That's great.
So one more announcement for the public. There are 2 Ski with Commissioner events. One is this Thursday, 10 to 11:30. We will be at Elk Camp at Snowmass. And next month, I don't have the date in front of me, we will be back at Snowmass, but we will be skiing with Eagle Commissioners. So this Thursday is really Basalt Chamber, probably the mayor, and some city council folks, along with staff and commissioners from Pitkin County.
I will not be there.
I will not be going. Greg will not be going. You
A
will be
commissioner
going.
from Pitkin County will be skiing at Elk Camp on Thursday.
Good for you. Thanks for representing us.
Thank you. Yeah, and I said and staff. I think Ryan and Kara are both going to be there. So thank you.
I would like to set up a joint meeting at some point with Basalt.
Yeah.
We aren't doing our joint meetings much anymore, and they're really helpful.
Any final closing comments?
Would you like me to try and get us a joint meeting with Garfield County Commissioners?
I'd love to meet with Garfield County Commission.
I'll work on that because Perry will be in DC with me. I'll see what I can do.
Excellent. Seeing no further comments.
Thank you.
Grassroots, we are adjourned. Thank you for
Thank
a
you, guys.
wonderful
Thanks.
day. Thank you for all your work on the interviews. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeffrey.